Unless you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. And now here's your host, Rich Barris.
And thank you, Don. Welcome Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Follow me on Getter at People's Pundit. You can still follow me on Twitter at People's_Pundit. And those of you watching on YouTube, if you like our videos, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. But we are employing everyone to sign up on Rumble, the People's Pundit Rumble channel. You see the Join Locals button right over there. Do so and get exclusive and early access to polling data and a whole slew of other stuff. You know the deal. If we have significant growth, or I would say, the goal growth, then we will have a very nice election night. Okay, so that's the goal. Signing up to the peoplespundit.locals.com community will absolutely go towards bigger, better 2022 midterm coverage. All right, so with that said, we're going to talk about the finalized questionnaire for the public polling project, which is scheduled to run this weekend. Another reason to sign up to locals, like I just said, is you will get those results first. You will also get exclusive results, nested crosstabs that we don't share with other people, things like that. All right. And among other things, absolutely Fallout, join the locals community, which is what it is. It is a community. It is not a social media site. I love our locals community. All right. It is what social media promised to be, but failed miserably at becoming. It is a place for debate outside the purview of big tech censorship. Speaking of which, Twitter, with the help of Twitter and others, Facebook does it too. By the way, we are streaming to Facebook today, just to tell those of you who have not been seeing the show on Facebook, all right, that we're not going to do it on Facebook anymore. So, you go to YouTube if you want, but we really do want everyone to sign up at Rumble. So I know you got to sign up to do it, but there's a reason for that, folks. All right, I'm just not going to support those who don't support us, or not even us. Free speech, in the last year, how many things got people banned that turned out to be true? In the last year alone. Now we have multiple years where we can actually say that. The New York Post locked out of their account on Twitter. Censored by Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg gave millions of dollars, according to investigators, to basically bribe local clerks, local officials. Is this what we want to support? The New York Post locked out for reporting a story during a presidential election that damaged or would have damaged their preferred candidate. Is that what we want to support? And it wouldn't matter if it was Fox News doing it to help Donald Trump, which would never happen, but doing it to help another Republican, which they did do for George Bush. They cheerleaded for the Iraq War, and they're beating the war drums in Ukraine right now as we speak. Speaking of which, when we look at the public polling project, Robert added suggestions for how we could ask different questions about Ukraine, and it's possible I might throw in one, if not both of those, which really gets to the crux of it. It's war. And it's important. Getting an accurate read on the public's opinion and support for conflict is probably, there's almost nothing more important, maybe. Horse racing, being professional and ethical during election season, of course, that's one thing. But when you're talking about gauging public opinion about war, potentially intervening or interceding on behalf of a nation against another great power. There are few things more important for a pollster to do, even sacred. Men will lose their lives if the country goes to war. So it is not okay for garbage pollsters who smear the good guys to be the only ones putting out information, which may or may not be true. I am curious to see, we asked this last month, but I am curious to see whether there's support or opposition rising or falling. I really am. We have been polling other places, privately for clients, and I can tell you, and from the East Coast to the West Coast, in localized races, I'm not seeing that as a priority for voters. Strongly opposed tends to be where all of the intensity is. But nationally, is it possible? Maybe. But we'll have to see. The media has been completely unified in beating the war drums. It's crazy nonsense. There's no chemical weapons or biological weapons in Ukraine. It says so on the website for the State Department. What are you talking about? Research facilities. Sorry. Research facilities. Folks, USAID is a front for the CIA in many places. Are you kidding me? Research facilities. They really believe you are going to swallow that crap? All right. You might see it. It's been a long time since we went directly into some economic stuff. And I think it's really important that we do, because speaking of Ukraine, it would be in Joe Biden's best interest to start a war in Ukraine, or at least that's how they would view it. Listen, to be clear too, because people are like, how could Joe Biden go out and do what he did during the State of the Union? I don't think Joe Biden knows what the hell he's doing. So this idea that, does he not know he supported to fund the police, and he, his campaign was bailing out people that were burning cities down? Does he not know this? Does he not know? I don't think Joe Biden knows anything. This is like an FDR level cover up of the president's health and fitness. We hear this man roams the halls of the residency at the White House at night, like a meandering old man. I don't think he looks you in the face and tells you, we have to fund the police, not defund the police. I've always been America first. We got to make products right here. We need more manufacturing and gas exploration. I've issued more permits than anybody. I think he just is told this, and he probably doesn't know, what is, outside of, hi, my name is Joe, my last name is Biden. I really can't tell you what else the man really knows. It's not a typical White House where you have cliques vying for the president's ear. And that's how a typical White House goes. Maybe you have a clique that's loyal to the State Department, a clique that's loyal to the Pentagon, a clique that's loyal to this agency, and they're all fighting for the ear of the president. A good president knows how to listen to everybody, give everybody attention here and there, right? And you don't want to let any one clique get a dominant position where they're the only ones, or most often the ones whispering in your ear. That's what a good president does. If you see incoherence and inconsistency, and Don Smith's coming on later, and he'll tell you this. He's a communications guy, and we've talked about this before. If you see that, it's the sign of a dysfunctional White House. Frankly, they don't know what they're saying from one day to the other. So one day they're, ready to defund the police and turn, a federal social worker, law enforcement replacement force all over the country. One day they're doing that. They're gonna pat your local area with basically an extension of the Capitol Police. One day they're doing that. And then the next day they're for autonomous states, cities, municipalities, townships, whatever. And they're ardent supporters of funding more police. I'm not sure it's a lie, is what I'm saying. I just think Joe Biden is that far gone. I really do. Because I have watched White Houses for decades. This is the sign of a dysfunctional White House with a weak central leader, a weak executive, and it's a rudderless ship. And clicks from the crew are fighting to get control of the helm. That's it. One day one click has it, the next day another click has it. Meanwhile, the captain is out to sea. So when he tells you that inflation is Ukraine's fault, or Russia's fault, because of Ukraine, some of that he may actually believe. He may not remember 6 months ago blaming it on used automobiles. Do you remember that? He may not remember 3 months ago telling Americans, get over it. $4,000 extra a year is a speed bump. A bump in the road, sorry. He may actually have forgotten saying that. I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. But for those who want to make this an issue, we're going to do it. The fact is, we've been polling people how long in the Public Polling Project and asking them about cost of living. About 2 months before the 2021 Virginia gubernatorial and New Jersey gubernatorial elections, we told you that cost of living and inflation was quickly becoming the fastest or the fastest surge in the most important issue. We told you that nationally it was starting to follow what we had seen in Virginia. This was a long time ago, folks. Long before the Ukraine and Russia conflict. Gas prices were surging, and the average price at the pump per gallon had already soared more than $1 when we had talked about that for the first time. It was more than slightly over $1 more than what it was under Donald Trump when he handed the reins to Joe Biden. Joe Biden decided to crush domestic production. He wants to talk about issuing permits, but that's not how this industry works. It takes time for exploration and extraction. It takes time. Last year, Joe Biden imported 160 million barrels of oil. You know how much Donald Trump needed to import? It's a real simple number. Nothing. So where did we take these barrels from? Joe Biden, after Donald Trump gave him the reins, began to purchase oil from Iran, who now has a dominant position at the negotiation table that you don't even know about because all the media is talking about is Ukraine. When Donald Trump left office, he had not only crippled Iran's oil exports, they were at the lowest levels ever because Donald Trump stopped issuing special permits. Therefore, our allies, who are supposed to be our friends, to basically go around sanctions and sell the Iranians components for weapon systems they're not supposed to have and purchase oil from them. Well, not only did Joe Biden end that, he began to purchase oil from them too. He funded part of Vladimir Putin's invasion in Russia. He did it by buying oil from Vladimir Putin. It hasn't even been a week since Robert and I went over on What Are the Odds in detail with countless graphics why this idea that Putin is going to be killed by his own people and the businesses are going to, flip out and rise up because the roof was falling is stupid. It hasn't even been a week since we have continued to hear these voices on the right and the left. They obviously know nothing about economics, let alone international economics. Doesn't hurt Putin when their currency falls. Tell me something. Why are we always complaining about China devaluing their currency if a devalued currency could collapse their market? Come on, folks. Use your noggins. In any event, we're going to pop this up. We're going to look at what are really terrible numbers. And you know this if you're a follower of the Public Polling Project months ago. Now, it's been what? When I want to look, actually, when did we first not only ask about cost of living became the number one issue in the fall? That's when it became the number one issue, or tied maybe with jobs in the economy. But more than that, let's look at I'm going to pull up data sets here. When it was that we asked people about whether or not they're experiencing, there's the winter. I keep calling it winter 2021. It's winter 2022, Rich, because we didn't. It's because we were trying to do it right before Christmas, if you remember, and it didn't happen. All right, so January. In January, we started asking people about food prices. In January. And also whether or not they had shortages. Long before Ukraine. Long before. And in fact, I was going to pull up my own CPI, but I'm not. I'm going to show you the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Because they want to say that this thing started under Ukraine. It's nonsense. Let's just use the regions that we use for polling. Northeast, West, South, Central, the West, West, North, actually, let's get rid of this. West, West, South, Central. Let's just do South, Northeast, Midwest, and get rid of the Mid-Atlantic because it's going to be part of it. I mean, the Mid-Atlantic, they consider like parts of Pennsylvania's Mid-Atlantic. Like that's why the Philadelphia Manufacturing Index used to be called Mid-Atlantic Manufacturing. And even some people still to this day in finance reporting, you'll see Mid-Atlantic Manufacturing fell or rose or whatever it may be. Does it appear that this started in February, ladies and gentlemen? Here is November 2020, 1.4%. And then it starts to take off under Joe Biden. It literally took off the minute Donald Trump left the White House. And people want to, well, that was kind of baked into the cake. No, it wasn't. Because if you read yourself and don't listen to other people, if you read the damn panelists in the ISM services PMI, the manufacturing PMI, you will see that they were constantly under threat of some kind of draconian mitigation measure if, God forbid, we surpass some arbitrary level of case rates in the country. So they didn't want to build up inventories. You slap that on top of oil producers, natural gas producers, coal producers. You slap all of that on top of them, knowing damn well that the Biden administration is going to come after them, so they're not going to ramp up production. And in fact, the Biden administration did wiped out whole projects. That's your energy problem. You can see inflation had an issue. Of course, it had a disruption when the COVID shutdown was happening. And that very April, there was a disruption in the CPI. The minute Donald Trump opened the economy back up, it returned to normal levels and normal month-to-month increases. It did not do this until Joe Biden took office. And this predated Ukraine. To just pretend like that's not true, like some of these media outlets are doing, is just, it's incredibly dishonest. Of course it's true. They just don't want Biden to take the fall for this. And actually here you can see it. I zoomed in. Give me 1 second and I'll go back to the CPI. Let me remove this for 1 second. I'll go back to the CPI overall in a second. But before we do that, I'm going to show you, because we have our own CPI, I just wanted to show people the actual one from BLS so nobody wants to get anything. But this is the back end of Evervis. I just changed the date and let's go to, we're not here. That's the end date. But that's basically it. Okay. It's October 1st. You can see the disruption here from when Donald Trump had closed down the economy. And you could see the CPI tanked. And it is in there, right? Yeah, you guys see it. You can see the CPI tanked here. And then after he reopened the economy, it began to rise again. And it was rising at normal. These are normal average increases. Had a disruption and it rebounded. Here's where Joe Biden takes office. It stops the average increase and begins to skyrocket. It was not because of automobiles. First, it was because of energy, because he came in declaring war on everything Donald Trump had done to make the United States energy independent. In the name, you have to understand this too, because it's important. In the name of just simply undoing what Donald Trump did. It didn't matter if it was good policy or not. It had to be undone because Donald Trump did it. The same thing with the sanctions on Russia, by the way. So they got what they wanted. And now going back to the BLS one, you can clearly see there is not a shadow of doubt. This is Joe Biden's inflation-induced problem. And those who followed him. The root cause, of course, is spending ungodly amounts of money that we simply do not have. But the root cause of inflation is an increase in the money supply. All right, basic economics. You increase the money supply, money is worth less, just like any other thing. Labor or goods. You increase the supply of it, it's worth less. That's the root cause of it. Donald Trump did spend a ridiculous amount in the CARES Act. I don't know that any president would have been able to resist that disgusting display of corruption and recklessness. Trillions of dollars on a single bill for a pandemic. Most of it not even related to the pandemic by category. But with that bill, Donald Trump had already done things like completely fund schools to meet CDC guidelines. So for the schools to reopen, because if you remember, ladies and gentlemen, they were closed and we were spending all this money on nothing but a Zoom meeting. The federal government distributed money to the states under Donald Trump's original CARES Act, sufficient amount of money to be able to make sure that each of these states and their local school systems were able to comply with the CDC guidelines to reopen schools. But it didn't happen. Instead, Joe Biden needs another one. Trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. They packed that with a bunch of left-wing goodies that had nothing to do with the pandemic. They doubled down and stuffed the teachers' unions' pockets with money they did not need. And it was reckless. And when you spend like this, you have debt the way we have, when normal market mechanisms start to come into place. Simple things like supply and demand. You leave yourself extremely vulnerable to skyrocketing inflation. And it's not just inflation. We're talking about inflation here. But there is nowhere in the economic history of the United States, go back and research any business cycle you'd like, nowhere will you find a period where inflation is rising at the levels it is right now, which, by the way, this month, that's another multi-decade high, 1982. Largest increase on the 12 months since 1982. You will not find another business cycle where inflation has risen this quickly by this rate, and it was not met with a recession to follow. And typically, depending on how bad the inflation was, it could be pretty severe. It could harder. This is the largest rise since 82, but that's when Ronald Reagan started to get a handle on it. It had, anyway, let me read while we look at this index so we know what we're looking at. The Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, the CPI-U, it's just a fancy name to say the CPI, guys, increased 0.8 in February, 0.8%, on a seasonally adjusted basis after rising 0.6% in January. The United States Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today, which was yesterday. Over the 12 months, the all-item index increased 7.9% before seasonal adjustment. That is inflation that many Americans have never experienced. And like I told you when we were going into the holidays, make sure you get your Christmas lists crossed off early, because once we come into this new year, what we're hearing from different people in different sectors, food, energy, is that we haven't seen anything yet. And unfortunately, that's coming true. Increases in the index for gasoline, shelter, and food were the largest contributors to the seasonally adjusted all items index. Whoa, 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 whoa. You mean it's not used automobiles? Joe Biden told us that the CPI is being disrupted by outrageous increases in used automobile prices. Freaking idiot. The gasoline index rose 6.6% in February and accounted for almost a third of the all items monthly increase. Other energy component indexes were mixed. The food index rose 1%, 1% on the month. And the home food index rose 1.4%. Both were the largest monthly increases since, guess when? April 2020. Anybody remember what that was? The disruption we were just looking at on the chart due to Fauciism. Fauci fascism. What's your excuse, Joe? The index for all items less food and energy rose 0.5% in February, following a 0.6% increase the prior month. The shelter index was by far the biggest factor in the increase, with a broad set of indexes also contributing, including those for recreation, household furnishings, and operations, motor vehicle insurance, personal care, and airline fares. And I can tell you, boy, airline fares are rising. Oh, speaking of which, locals, I'll get you my Hillsdale speech in a hot minute. It's there. I got it. So I will send it up. I'll put it up after the show, okay? Promise you, I've been promising you that. I saw airline fare and it popped in my head. All right. The all items index rose 7.9. We know that. The 12-month increase has been steadily rising and is now the largest since the period ending January 1982. The all items less food and energy index rose 6.4%, the largest 12-month change since the period ending August 1982. The energy index rose 25.6% over the last year, and the food index 7.9, the largest 12-month increase since the period ending July 1981. Jimmy Carter. Again, what's your excuse, Joe? Jimmy Carter at least had out-of-control interest rates. It's stagflation. So people, you have that extra interest payment tacked onto the principal of your mortgage. Kind of stifles spending a little bit. We're at the point now, the Fed is they're just totally, I don't know what they're doing. They're in left field. They have to raise rates. I hate to say this. The Fed has got to raise rates. Not their stupid little quarter points, half points. They have got to significantly raise interest rates because this is what they have done to us. Artificially holding these rates low for a political party to benefit off of it is stupid. And that goes for all parties. Think Republicans wanted the Fed to raise rates under Donald Trump? By the way, notice they were flirting with raising rates more under Donald Trump. Here we are faced with significant inflation crisis, what David Giglio in California is calling a cost of living crisis. Here we are faced with a real cost of living crisis, and they're just sitting, what, on their thumbs and rotating? The hell are what do these people do? This is obviously not sustainable. And I think the West really got a false sense of security, economic security, for a long time. After the post-Cold War era, all right, as we went into the post-Cold War era, we were basically the only hegemonic power remaining, right? And I just don't believe in single hegemons, but the bottom line is everyone else kind of was like, you know what, the US is going to do its thing, and we're going to be able to do our thing as well. We go into 2000 with a balanced budget because Newt Gingrich made Bill Clinton. They, believe me, folks, they wanted to spend the hell out of that money. But Newt Gingrich pulled on Clinton's bit. If Clinton would have got his way, that 90s surplus from peace and prosperity dividends would have been spent by his wife on Hillary care. But Newt Gingrich engineered a historic takeover of Congress in 94, and he put them in their place. We had a balanced budget and a surplus going into this, going into George W. Bush, who campaigned on basically an America First agenda. Trade deals suck. My dad and Bill Clinton, yeah, they meant well, but these trade deals suck. We can't be the policemen of the world. Sound familiar? And what happens? 9/11 happens, I understand. And people would say, well, it changed the entire world. Maybe it changed your entire world. Maybe your policy armed and created some of this. In any event, George W. Bush becomes a president he did not run to be. They blow a hole in the U.S. budget to the tune of $8 trillion. We start to really believe we're invincible economically. And it doesn't matter how much money we print. Inflation isn't really real. And by the way, the CPI absolutely understates inflation. So if the Bureau of Labor Statistics is telling you that inflation rose just under 8% on the 12-month basis, you better rest assured that that number is significantly higher. It's like their fake unemployment rate, if you want the truth. It's not the U6. It's a gimmick. Depending on who you really put more stock in, we're not talking about statistically insignificant differences from other people who have argued the CPI grossly understates. We're talking about, some people will tell you marginal, and some people will tell you significant. In any event, we started to feel economically invincible, and we are not. So what do we do from here? It's not going to get any better. You have any idea where gas is going to be by the summer, ladies and gentlemen, if this stupidity continues? If this keeps up, where do you think gas and food is going? Because when gas rises, of course, how the hell do they get it to the grocery store? How do they get it from farm to table? Everything will go up. Gas wants to rise more than a quarter in a year. Folks, did you hear what they said? Energy rose 1/4 in a single year under Joe Biden. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can grab something. Or take a look at the message. Do me a favor. All right. Yeah, there's unfortunately just not a great answer at this point. Pain. The answer is pain. We absolutely are going to have to feel some pain. Economics, there's no silver bullet to fix something like this. When Reagan did it after Carter during the malaise, Reagan didn't have a mountain and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in debt, pretending as if, that doesn't matter. It does matter. And we're basically built on a house of cards at this point. There has to be a return to sanity. I don't even know what I want to call it, but it's like economic, almost like economic realism, I guess. You really need to understand that it's like a bicycle theory. It's like the EU, frankly, which the EU, obviously, the bicycle theory was right, obviously, which is that it's really not a self-sustainable thing. And the only way you can do it is by getting other people to do it and adding and adding and adding. So you're basically pedaling the bike and pedaling the bike and pedaling the bike. But it's not really built on a solid foundation. So once you stop pedaling the bike, you tip over. That's why I call it the bicycle theory. We have to make the rest of the world, act like us stupidly economically. Like we need them to make these economically disastrous decisions, rack up mountains of debt. You got something you want to say? Or
no?
Okay.
I mean,
rack up mountains of debt. Because if they don't do it, then guess what? We actually have to suffer the consequences of this. Do you think Russia and China are going to do that? In fact, the last time this crisis happened, the last time we had a financial crisis like this, the big bad straw man, Vladimir Putin, actually saved us. The Chinese were ready to call it in and do us dirty. They were.
Yeah.
During the financial crisis, the subprime mortgage crisis, they were ready to do us in. Putin said, no, I can't get on board with that. That will cause massive economic disruption. Chinese said, I don't give a damn.
Yeah, no, China don't.
They didn't care. They were like, nah, this is our chance. Let's wreck them.
Mm-hmm. Let's own them.
Let's do them in. It's just death blow time, baby.
Mm-hmm.
And Putin said, not for me.
Not today.
I'm not signing on for this. At least not Not today. Maybe if you paint him like the next Adolf Hitler, when something happens and Xi Jinping calls, he's going to say, all right, let's pull the trigger.
Yeah. Could you blame him?
No. If I was him, I would do it. I would do it. Because I know the Russian people, for whatever pain they feel, which is going to hurt. It is. It's going to hurt everybody. Mm-hmm. But the pain they feel somewhat will be tempered by the pride and stoicism that they'll have in destroying us.
Yeah.
They're proud and strong people.
Sure.
I know it's not popular to say. It's not popular to compliment a Russian these days. I'll be labeled the Putin wing of the party again, like as if this keeps going on. First of all, I'm not part of your damn party.
I know.
Take your party and stick it up your, you know what? Mm-hmm. This is a stupid thing to say anyway. Who the hell? Why the hell did you assume I'm part of your party? I'm not. All right, we're 12:40. Yes, total lunacy, total lie. Again, let's look at it real quick, just one more time. Total lie. Here we have August 2020. There's the West. There's no national. No, there's not. I would have to go to mine to do that. But you can see each region here. They generally follow the same trend. Here's the election. Everyone's holding their breath, seeing what's going on. Is Trump going to be able to pull this off? It's not likely, it's looking, by December. And because there really is no mechanism to stop something like that, but I'm not going to get into it. By the way, YouTube shot Don again for having that. I guess the conversation, I was listening to the show last week. I guess the conversation with Matt Boyle, he was like, you get one of those. You don't get to do that again, And, they don't want to talk about that. You're not allowed to. So boom, gone. So follow Don on Rumble too, because like I told, that's why I'm telling you all to go to Rumble. This is where we're at with these people. Anyway, the country's kind of wondering, business is kind of wondering what is going to happen. And then they decide it's Joe Biden. By December, they start making moves. They're not going to build up business inventories. Then when business inventories demand starts skyrocketing, business inventories have to be built up. It lags. They hit a bottleneck. You have a bunch of Democratic constituencies on piers protesting and refusing during a time of basically national crisis. They put their own damn interests first. We got a Democratic president now. Time to cash in. Pete Buttigieg goes on freaking maternity leave.
That's epic.
We got miles and miles worth of shipping containers off the coast of California.
Well, he must have had menstrual cramps too.
It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. So, like, look, the bottom line is, I hate to tell you this, guys, but, Thomas Jefferson was right. You get the government you deserve.
Amen.
I hate to say it, but it's true.
But
Look,
it's
I'm
the
not being a
truth.
prick here. It's the truth.
True
And you
story.
could say, well, I don't believe Joe Biden won. Well, guess what? I don't remember very many people before the election, other than Robert and myself, saying this is not normal. This isn't legal, number one. And it's not, and it wasn't. So I don't know how anybody could fact check that or dispute that at this point. States have constitutions. You don't get to change through executive fiat or Mark Zuckerberg's dirty money. You don't get to change the rules of the game and, basically rig it for yourself. But he did. And people sat around and did it. So you could say, well, I didn't vote for Joe Biden. Yes, but let's face it, collectively as a country, people sat around and let that happen. And many people in the country, I would even dare to say a majority at the time, bought the COVID nonsense hook, line, and sinker. I think I can count on one hand the number of people from the beginning that said, this isn't about saving lives. This is about changing the rules of the election. It won't be 14 days to slow the spread. It'll eventually be forever until I tell you so, until there's not a viral particle in society. Once you let those big blue states shut down, they're never going to reopen them because they would rather hurt people economically. They would rather destroy their jobs and their lives if it means stopping Donald Trump. Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, the now disgraced Andrew Cuomo, once a hero during all this. Remember? A hero. Governor Wolf, Governor Murphy. These are people who have huge says over the economy. And once we gave them the green light to do that, which was basically a blanket okay, shut it all down, they were going to change the rules midway. And we were able to benefit from being in Florida. We had some earlier elections where we were refusing to do things the way everyone wanted to. But we had the benefit of at least saying, we know what's coming here because we see it. We hear it right now. This is going to be remote learning, a remote election, this or that. Blah, 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 blah. The uninsured unemployment rate is through the roof. He doesn't give a damn. Jobless claims, pandemic assistance applications came largely from California, Michigan, Nevada, New York. They don't care. Florida was the first to rebound. They don't care. Governor Abbott fell for it. Texas was significantly behind Florida in recouping their normal levels of insured unemployment. Don't put that bill in the CARES Act. People are going to sit home. They're going to whack you on the jobs reports. But we can't. That's cruel. Okay. People will sit on their butts instead of going back to work, especially with all the fear porn that you're pumping out there. So in truth, if we were really being honest with ourselves, everybody contributed to this now economic problem. And this will get worse. This is sadly, I don't know anyone who's predicting a reduction in inflation. We spoke the other day to somebody who is basically He's basically a fund manager, or at least he's part of the fund management team. And they're looking at what they're going to do with their energy positions. And it's, it's this $10 figure. You think this is legit? He's like, you see the price of oil per barrel? We haven't even begun to get into the summer. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, gas prices, they're cyclical. The price per barrel goes up in the summer all the time. We haven't even seen that demand yet. I'll tell you, it's possible. And then once that happens, everything else obviously will follow. Obviously. All right, before we get into the break, all right, which I'm going to take a break a little bit early today because I want to leave some more room for questions. And even, a little back and forth with the locals community about some of what we decided to do here with the poll, which I didn't change it yet. I'm going to go through and show you. Junk Kamala Harris, look, if we are funding a poll damn near every month, which it looks like we are, I do see the argument that most of you made, which is that Kamala Harris isn't really there's nothing going on right now. That's not really true. She was just put in charge of negotiations here for Ukraine. So it is true that she has a role. It's just not a very good one. She's going to go over there and she's going to go lecture them. Listen, Vlad, your country is bigger. And, that's morally unjust for you to attack a smaller country. I swear she's going to pull what she pulled a couple weeks ago. He's going to give her the crooked eye or one of his ambassadors. I'm like, is Iraq as big as the United States, you flake? You idiot. Anyway, so there's something that, that we could do with her, but I just think that there are things that are more important. Laura, you got something to say?
I just want to say how they made fun of Palin so bad about that Russia comment.
Go ahead, sorry.
I just get so mad that how they picked on Palin about that whole entire "I could see Russia in my backyard," even though it was just a metaphorical.
She never said
joke.
that though. That was not what she said. That was Saturday Night Live's version of what she said, and that always became like truth.
That's what I'm saying. How they made fun of her for that, and she didn't. You didn't let me finish. She didn't even say it, and yet we have Kamala Harris, who actually was like, "It's bigger, no smaller. I'm in the north flank, no east flank. A flank? Well, I'm in Ukraine. This is the vice president, and she can't even tell you her location. And then they want to pick on Sarah Palin, trying to make a joke, which she didn't even say. It just irks me, man.
Well,
I can't stand it.
I can't help myself when I say this because it's true, Laura. That's what happens when you climb on top of the competition instead of over top the competition.
Well, that's why
Can we be real for a second? Can we be real for a
second?
second? We have a daughter. Is this somebody? We have a daughter. We have a 10-year-old daughter. Is this somebody that you are, feel that we should be like showing our daughter as some kind of a role model? Isn't it sad that the first vice president woman or any, because it could have been a president, in 2016. Isn't it sad that it would be nice, for the country to see that something like a milestone we could hit. I don't really care about gender. I care about qualifications. So it doesn't bother me there hasn't been a female president. But once there is a female vice president, Laura, wouldn't it have been nice if it was someone that our daughter could actually aspire to become? Instead of somebody that we have to one day say, don't be like her because when she's old enough and it's appropriate, it's just, it's sad.
It's disappointing as a woman, though, just in general, as a woman, it's disappointing to know that she is the first representative of the female race getting into such a position.
Don't fall into
gender.
their trap.
I'm sorry,
Female
I said
gender.
race. I'm going back and forth between conversations with other people. I apologize.
Yeah.
So for her to be that, and get that job by the flat of her back or the bending of her
God.
knees
Hey, we got it.
is very disgusting. It's disgusting.
No, it's sad because it's like there were so many other women who have run for office that
And then she
by the way,
lied
Sarah
about
Palin's
she
one of
took
them.
Martin
Sarah
Luther
Palin's one
King's
of them.
story. She took Junior's story and tried to pass it
Yeah,
off.
but
It was
th-
me.
there were
Freedom.
so many other people. There were so many other people, Laura, that could have, that would have done. It would have just been better.
If you
They would have
can't win your
served that
own
role in
primary,
history
there was a
better.
reason. There was a reason
Yeah.
she couldn't win her own primary.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And by the way, the idea that she helped Joe Biden with the black vote is nonsense because when we poll her against Donald Trump, for instance,
Mhm.
she does worse than Joe Biden among blacks, which leads me to the story I was going to bring up, which is the Wall Street Journal poll that just came out. It's nice that everybody follows suit, but we have Hispanics not just in South Texas and in Florida. That's what they always want to try to like reduce them. They're trying to take those Hispanics and say they're like different. They don't represent Hispanics in the rest of the country. That's bullcrap. And we show that in Virginia, look, coast to coast, from Virginia to California, Hispanics are leaving the Democratic Party in droves and going to the America First agenda. And it is the America First agenda. It is not the Republican agenda that they like. They don't really like Republicans. They don't really know them that well. It's the America First agenda, which the New York Times themselves admitted in that piece last week. Patriotism, they said. The focus on America. American domestic issues. That's America First. They just couldn't bring themselves to use the word because if they did, then it would be connected to Donald Trump and they just can't have that. Next week, by the way, we have Anthony Sabatini on Friday. We're trying to bring in others that have similar issues. We're doing a whole thing next week about the Republican Party trying to sabotage good candidates that are appealing to these new groups of voters. We're doing a whole thing on that. And it's going to be interesting, folks, because we're going to start to really crack it all open. Because I really have to tell you, they don't want what they say verbally. This idea, well, yeah, we want to be the party of Hispanics. Not the Hispanics that are being drawn to the Republican Party because of Donald Trump's vision for it. Not that group of Hispanics. These are like country club Republicans, sweater vest wearing Republicans, and they look down on these people just as much as they look down on the working class white from Arkansas or something, or West Virginia, or Western Pennsylvania, or anywhere else for that matter. They don't really want to be that party. And secondly, they definitely don't want them because that will clearly show that Donald Trump was able to finally do something to finally start this, and they could not. Here's the truth with the Hispanic vote. It is moving to the right everywhere, as now the Wall Street Journal poll is showing as well. Even Republicans made some pretty modest, but it's significant. I don't want to say that in a statistical sense, but they were modest gains in the Wall Street Journal poll among black voters. But the Hispanic surge was incredible. Those were statistically very significant. And I'm trying to explain to people, putting this into context. The Hispanic vote was a swing vote at one time, as was the Asian vote. The difference with Asians is due to, we've gone over this a million times, census now is out, I was right, and it's over. Those suburbs that got more Asian, it wasn't the white woman, solely flocking to Democrats because of Donald Trump. Those suburbs were filled with different kinds of new Asian voters that we did not see in the early 2000s when they were a swing vote. They're more educated, They're from less conservative Asian populations, so like less Filipino, less Korean, less Indian, and more Chinese. And Japanese too, by the way. They consistently are more conservative when we ask the Asian detail question. They're getting Asian migration is coming Largely, the biggest group is China. They are not conservative. It is no longer the Tiananmen Square migration, where they have the picture of the kid in front of the tank, the student in front of the tank. They like the CCP. They like leftism. They don't care about American values. Let's get real. They don't, it's foreign to them. But the Hispanic vote has always been different. George W. Bush and the Bush wing of the Republican Party scared Hispanic voters away. They destroyed the Republican appeal to the Hispanic voter. They did it, and then they signed, sealed, delivered it, Barack Obama's slogan, Barack Obama's song, with the financial crisis. And with that, because it disproportionately impacted Hispanic voters, Hispanic families, Hispanic populations in Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico. There's been a ton of information on this. Some of them chose to go back to their own damn countries, even though they were basically American citizens now. Not basically, they were. And they were born, natural born American citizens in their family. The financial crisis stole their American dream. And whether it's right to blame George Bush, for it or not, is really irrelevant. He was holding the bag. Republicans were in charge for 6 out of 8 of those years. I can hear George W. Bush blaming Dodd and Frank all he wants. He did send Hank Paulson, Henry Paulson, as Treasury Secretary, to go speak to both Dodd and Frank on Capitol Hill about the subprime crisis they believe was coming. Twice, 2 big times. Both times Chris Dodd and Barney Frank told him to kiss off, get lost. And they didn't fight. They did nothing. So that's already a condemnation of it. But what about the other 6 years when you had everything? Total government control. You were a very typical establishment coward. It's a worthy, I would say it's an honorable goal. The policy of the Community Reinvestment Act was an honorable goal, but in practice was foolish and dangerous. And because Republicans, if you pre-Trump, in case anybody needs a history lesson, because they never had a spine, because they never had the courage to do the right thing when it was hard, they let it go. And Hispanics blamed the Republican Party for the financial crisis. They lost it for basically a generation. Donald Trump comes along. Somehow he's told that Hispanics are told that he believes all Mexicans are rapists and murderers, right? And that he's anti-immigrant and he basically wants to put them all in concentration camps. And yet somehow he damn near carries Miami-Dade. Somehow Starr County goes from an overwhelming Hillary Clinton lead to Donald Trump nearly carrying it. And we all know Zapata. That's funny. Those are the people the media said he believed were all rapists and murderers. Why did they vote for the man in droves? Arizona. The white vote shifted to the Democrats. The reason why it wasn't a Mark Kelly margin is because Donald Trump did better than Martha McSally among Hispanics. Clear. Very clear. Nevada, I told you that state would not be close and we should probably not poll it in the public polling project. I was wrong about that. I said it would be close, but that ultimately Donald Trump probably didn't have a chance to carry it. When now that we look and we see some of the things that went on, without a doubt, Donald Trump did well enough among Hispanics. He pulled off the Romney campaign's equation, which was the long-believed Republican equation to win Nevada. Get in the 40s, the mid-40s in Clark County, run it up in the rural areas. but because of the Asian migration, not Hispanic, that I was telling you about in Washoe County, coupled with, yes, and more educated whites getting more Democrat, but there has been an influx of Asian populations in Washoe County, which has helped that county move to the left. That was the Reno area was Republicans' last stronghold in the Silver State. And they would lose that state not because they lost Washoe, but because they couldn't perform as well as Donald Trump in Clark County. So the truth is, these pollsters are always way behind. The takes from some of the blue check gurus on this Washington Post, this Wall Street Journal poll is just ridiculous. All right. If I had time, I'd show some of it because they were one of them. I think Republicans are sadly mistaken if they think they're going to run against CRT and win black votes. I think you don't know how to word a survey. That's what I think. There will be an element of black voters, of course, who will support the premise, the basic premise of critical race theory. But when we polled it nationally, if you remember, a slight majority of African-American voters, black and African-American voters, opposed it. Why? Because we didn't inject any media talking points into our wording or party talking points. We simply said which comes closer to your view about education, your philosophies on what children should be taught. Then in America, if everybody works hard, we all have equal chance at an outcome. If we all work hard, we just outcome, whatever, however, traditional American view of what you teach kids about America. And then we took the definition for critical race theory from Harvard University. Remember? It's almost worded exactly as it is in the survey they proposed to their own students. And it went down in flames. We did a whole segment on it. So yes, there is going to be a segment of the black community that would support critical race theory, and you're not going to win those votes. But guess what? You're not going to win them anyway. If you draw those who don't support teaching that, like this woman I have in my head that I remember from that poll, and she had children, and she said, it's racist. I'm not going to teach my children that they are disadvantaged. I don't want them taught that they are disadvantaged because simply of the color of their skin. She said, that's not a condemnation of society. That's a condemnation of my race, of their race. We're supposed to teach them that their outcome is inferior because of the color of their skin. And you remember her, Laura? And she did not want her children taught that. That woman is a Democratic voter. That woman you could win.
But also the biracial families, and what they're teaching the children is to hate half of your family as well. This is very
That's right. You remember in Virginia, I forgot what district it is. I could go look it up, but it's plurality, black district, and Glenn Youngkin carried it.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell did he carry that district? Please. From shying away from CRT? He did not. Some of these people are just, again, if you didn't catch, I'll have to make sure I put that speech up from Hillsdale if you didn't catch it live. It's so much more than the pollsters. Then you have all of the idiots that come out that are wrong year after year after year. You have all of these people come out and then make this stupid commentary on it. And sadly, the Republican Party listens to it. They listen. It takes them years to catch up. Now they know Texas 15 is in play, Laura. Now they know. How long have I been screaming about Texas 15? They were scared of it because they were told they could never win a district that was 85% Hispanic.
You were saying for a long time.
Years. They are way behind the curve all the time. And they are because they listen to these morons. And Don is actually, I see he's clicked in. We're going to take our break. When we come back, I'm going to ask Don about that too. The communications guy. You're not going to win the black vote by talking about CRT, but you're damn sure going to peel some more off. And by the way, obviously, it's not their priority. So this idea like, well, look, that's not their top voting issue. Of course it's not. It's not most people's top voting issue. Doesn't mean they don't think it's important. It's widely believed Ron DeSantis did that well among black women in 2018, which saved him against a black candidate because of school choice. There is absolutely a segment of the African-American black community that votes on education for their children. I mean, it's the idea that they don't. Like, bigotry of low expectations, Laura. The bigotry of low expectations. All right, look, you're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Follow me on Getter at People's Pundit, on Twitter at People's_Pundit. If you're watching on YouTube, like the video. If you like it, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. But we are imploring everyone to join the Rumble channel, People's Pundit Rumble channel. When you're there, trying to help build up that 2022 midterm coverage that we all are going to love. Right there, you'll see the Locals button. It says Join Locals. Sign up to peoplespundit.locals.com. And by the way, it's a great time to do it this weekend because you will see a lot of what we do in that community when we're polling. And then, of course, you're going to see things before everybody else does. And you'll even see things nobody else will ever see because that's part of the benefit of becoming part of the community. I do have a major announcement. I'm going to set us. It's not a major, but people have wanted this for a long time. And we're going to do it. We're finalizing it right now. But I'm going to save it to the end of the show. We're going to start adding something to the community that everybody wanted. It'll be a weekly thing. And I think we're at the point now where I can at least announce it. All right. So I think now is a perfect time to start it as well. I really do. Our Zoom meetups were a big hit, but they ran really long. And then we were trying to figure out what to do with this. What can we turn it into that benefits everybody that had high interest? Oh, the community really had high interest in doing it. There was so many participants. We had to buy like a premium Zoom plan. I had no idea that, they limit you. And that if you want unlimited guests or you have a community like ours where, potentially thousands of people could join a Zoom meeting, you got to get it. You got to buy that. And, it's been sitting there and I've been wondering because when we started the Zoom meetups, we did buy it. And I started to wonder, what can we do with this? And we've been talking with the community about it. And, but I'm going to save that to the end. It's a teaser. You're just going to have to wait. All right. We'll be back in 2 minutes. 30 seconds. Special thanks as always to the Bone Band for Bad Habit. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere, folks.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right, and we're back inside the numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Like I was saying before the break, don't forget, join Rumble. I see a lot of you doing that. Thank you so much for it. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe. That'll let you know. If you hit the notification bell, that'll let you know when we're going to go live. But I implore you to sign up for Rumble, and my next guest will illustrate why that is important, okay? While you're there, check out the Join Locals button. Join the People's Pundit. .locals.com community. This weekend is a great weekend to do it because we're going into the field. I can't wait. All right. We're going to ask generic ballots, 2024s, top issues. We're going to continue with our adverse effects because of the news. We're going to continue tracking that. But I do think that people are right. We can probably get rid of the vaccine question at this point. I just think that the adverse impact, if they say they have been, we do need that one because the adverse effects, you cannot ask that unless you know someone's status, right? So, but I think Robert may be right about getting to the crux of Ukraine, what people think and believe. And I have a Rasmussen poll that they gave me earlier this morning that basically shows that people really think that the coverage is off, that they're watching it closely, but only 19% said that the coverage of the Ukraine conflict was that they're doing an excellent job. Another 31% said they're doing good. So about 50, but still there was just as many who said they were doing a poor job than they were doing an excellent job. 22% said they were doing a fair job. Bottom line is that voters said they really want a more diverse aspect to this coverage and that they're just beating the war drum too much in essence. All right. So let me bring on my next guest. All right, before we get into a little bit more with the Public Polling Project, Don Smith from the Don Smith Show. What's up, my friend?
How are you doing?
Oh, I guess I got to kind of pop Laura off over here. There you go. She did it herself.
Sorry,
doing
Laura.
Good, my friend. Living the dream as always. How about you?
Same here. Living the dream.
Tell everybody what happened after Saturday's show, which was a fantastic show.
Thank you.
Great interview with Matt Boyle at CPAC from Breitbart. Have really talked a lot about the election, and tell everybody what happened.
Yeah, so everybody knows that I got shut down on YouTube, so I hadn't been able to post anything on there. But when I went to do my show on Saturday, I pulled up YouTube just out of habit, and all of a sudden it was going to let me set up a stream. So I was like, okay, I'm not sure what changed here, but all right. So I set up a stream, went on YouTube. I don't know, I guess first thing Monday morning, I fired everything up, pulled up my YouTube account, and it said, the video's gone. Actually, before I pulled up everything, I noticed that the video was gone. And they told me it was spreading widespread fraud about the election results. And I can only assume, we had a lot of great people on there. And I guess in one form or another, we all kind of touched on at least the upcoming election or elections in some way or form. But we had Matt Boyle on. And in the segment I played on the Matt Boyle interview, he was talking about some specific things about actually, no, let me take that back, because they weren't specific things. They were his feelings about what happened.
General feelings.
Opinions. Opinions are now illegal. Think about this, folks, because it's kind of getting a little scary here. So they pulled it down and said, that's all that really they told me was they pulled it down. So their communications with me, they're not going through like the normal process, because I guess there's the one strike, the two strikes, they just shut me down. So I don't know where we go from here. Imagine where we go from here is my channel's going to be completely shut down because I don't know, kind of in the appeal, I think I called them cowards and Nazis or something like that. So probably not going to be around.
You did.
And I don't care. Here's the thing. I'm not even going to check YouTube anymore. Even if they were to allow me to put my show back on there, I'm not going to. I don't need them. I'm going to lose viewerships and things like that because some people haven't switched over. But I've been kind of fortunate. I think most people have come over now to Rumble, and I think I went 3 weeks or something without being on on YouTube. So so Rumble's the place to go. And it's not because you and I don't want people to use YouTube or we want to dictate where they go, or it's none of those things. We've always been sharing these things on every platform we can, just to give people choices, and it should be up to them where they want to watch these kind of things. But YouTube is making that impossible. So definitely, if you're watching right now and you're on that other thing, check out Rumble, because this is really we're kind of. I always had a problem, and I think maybe you did too. I don't want to speak for you, but always had a problem that I'm kind of supporting these guys, right, in their quest to shut people down and squelch free speech and all these kind of things. So you're supporting them when people give you super chats and things like that.
That's what I tell people. Don't do that. Don't do that. Give to the Public Polling Project.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and you would say, but that's not going to you, Rich. But it's going to my work,
right?
And no, we don't. You know how much a national poll costs on. So I mean, some people would go to that forum and be like, "Whoa, he's got to raise $6,000. Whoa, that's nothing for a national poll, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing." And I would say you're still supporting our work if you do that. But a lot of people tell me, I'm sure you hear this too, that they don't want to sign up to Rumble because they have to sign up. And that seems to be a bit of an obstacle. But guys, I've spoken to the CEO of Rumble about this on a Zoom call, and if they didn't, then it would turn into YouTube with a bunch of just trolls and stupidity. And this is at least getting a commitment from somebody that they're, or at least trying anyway. That's the thought behind it, that they're getting a commitment from somebody to be a productive user and a productive viewer and commenter, and that they're being, it's in good faith, but that's really what it comes down to. So I get it, because I've brought this up to them. Like, look, I hear from a lot of people that they don't want to sign up. I don't know, can you comment on YouTube without signing in, Don?
I don't believe so. No. Can you? I don't think you can.
So I don't know all that. Thing. Maybe people can enlighten me on this, but I don't know all of the difference, because you could watch a YouTube without, of course, signing in, but you do have a Google account. You have a Gmail or something. So that is what you're using to sign into. So yeah, but the bottom line is what Don said. Why are we supporting people that don't support us? And if you're giving it, or not even us, I say us, but what I mean is our faith in this system, the freedom, liberty. I mean, they don't believe in liberty, and I don't want to support that. So if you don't know what makes I don't want to say Western civilization, but I guess that is a great way to put it. If you don't know what made Western civilization far superior and why we took this great 5,000-year leap, as one author put it, if you can't connect those dots, then you're a dangerous person, because I mean, human civilization literally has been in the dark ages has been in the dark because people refused to acknowledge that. The last time a great citizen empire fell, it led to the Dark Ages. And it took hundreds of years to get to the Renaissance. I mean, if you can't connect those dots, you don't know how we got to the moon, folks. I mean, you don't know how all of this brave new world came about. Then I don't give the 30% to people like that, is my point. Don't do it.
Well, you can go all over that platform and you can find all kinds of videos of, I don't care if it's Adam Schiff or whoever, all these people talking about the Russia collusion and the dossier, right? Making that they still believe the dossier, which is obviously, we all know where that's at. But just think about that for a minute. That stuff is all still there. But people giving their opinion on the 2020 election, why would they even care? Why would they even care about Matt Boyle's opinion on how would that affect them to the point where they say, we've got to stop this guy. We've got to get this guy off. Why? Why would they be so emotionally invested in that? That's what people need to ask themselves.
Look at everything, from a factual point of view. Look at everything that they claim just in this last year. Forget about all of the time under Donald Trump with collusion hoax and whatnot. By the way, I mean, a United States House Majority Whip was shot because of their fake conspiracy theory.
Right.
And yet people are still allowed to promote that crap on YouTube to this
Absolutely.
day. Hillary Clinton still has a Twitter account. What's her name from the New York Times. Maggie Haberman still has a Twitter account. Natasha Bertrand, she is essentially a U.S. intel community asset. She's not a journalist. She still has a Twitter account printing misinformation day in, day out. Brian Stelter, Morning Joe. I mean,
Brian
the
Williams.
whole damn staff. Right. Brian Williams. I mean, the whole damn staff at these agencies. Don,
I'm on my
ABC, CBS.
I'm on my
Brian
third
Ross.
Twitter account. I'm on my third Twitter handle. Vladimir Putin, he's on his first.
The mullahs.
The
The
Ayatollah,
Ayatollah
they're on their first.
has
Louis
a Twitter
Farrakhan,
account.
still on his first.
Louis Farrakhan. Oh, and Donald Trump's gone. And they did it when he was a sitting president. So it's like, I go to Getter. If you haven't signed up to Getter, go to Getter. I haven't gone on Trump's Truth Social yet. I mean, it's just one of those things.
I'm in line. So I'm at CPAC. I was at CPAC and Kash Patel was giving me a hard time for not being on Truth Social yet. He goes, go on there. He says, I'll help you get a bump on there. I'm like, okay. So I go on there and I sign up to it. I am still today 818,000 in the waiting line to get on. So
I can't stress enough how long Robert Barnes and I on What Are the Odds, right, had been saying, why is Trump trying to reinvent the wheel with these things? You had supporters who were ardent supporters doing things differently. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just support Getter, or even like Glenn Herman. He had created. He had created his own. It was fantastic. I liked it better than Twitter. You have locals,
right?
Ruben started. He's a convert. He's a convert to Trumpism. Was once a rabid liberal. Why, instead of competing with these people who are doing fantastic jobs, why would you do that? Why would you reinvent the wheel, compete with them, instead of just slapping your name on it? Instead of getting your own, thing on, your own media thing, just find supporters that are doing their thing, put your name on, help you. Trump's genius has always been branding anyway. Starting things from the ground up hasn't worked for Donald Trump that much in his career, except for the man can build. He can build beautiful, beautiful buildings, the most beautiful. But he's right. Have you ever been in some of these buildings? Don, I know you have. I mean, this man builds things like nobody else. He has this attention to detail and he has this extravagance that nobody can mimic. Nobody can. And that's fine. That's your niche, Donald. And then also, or Mr. President, and then also you're a brander. You're a hell of a brander. You should have, that was always the right way to go. Jason Miller creates Getter. Getter had some problems. It got better every day and it's fantastic. I would just say this, Jason. Nesting tweets, Jason, nesting posts, you got to get on that. All right, people, or threads, what is known as a thread. The thread, reply on Getter is just really that. It's just a reply. It's not really a thread. But other than that, they've done a fantastic job. I'm streaming to Getter right now. Why didn't, if you would have just came in and slapped his name on Getter, slapped the support behind locals, there are others. I just don't know why he didn't do that, but let's move on from that. I guess this is a question for both of us, and it's going in the direction I was going to go in anyway. We have this stuff in Ukraine going on, Don. You just heard me with the poll from Rasmussen. I think I'm going to ask the two questions Robert had suggested, and I don't have my damn phone. Oh, I do. It's on over there. When I go to you, I'll grab it and I'll tell everybody what Robert had suggested, because it does get to the core of specific things that they really want to do in Ukraine, and being general with these stupid little questions we did it, and I think we did it well last month, the general concepts, but we could get a lot more specific and ask people what they support, because this is what these people really want to do. Do you support that? So this question from Dreary Spider, how can the new Congress, assuming Republicans take over, and I think that's pretty evident at this point, slow down Biden's actions that are leading to a catastrophic geopolitical shift? Russia plus China, the partnership, you might as well slap India on the end of that now too. What can the new Congress do to slow down this shift, Don? And then if Trump is reelected in 2024, will he be able to restore Russian relations, U.S.-Russia relations? China's attacking us from within. Maybe Putin is worried about that as well in the long term. take it with number one. What can the Congress do? A new Republican Congress, what can they do to slow down Joe Biden creating what Dreher is referring to is this new balancing coalition that's going to, it's going to crush us. This is stupid. We never had the might to do this. This is probably the dumbest thing we could have done.
Yep.
What do you think a new Congress could do, Don?
The real problem is, okay, so here's the way I look at this. The real problem that we have right now, and so this actually I can kind of answer both questions at the same time, because the problem we have right now is a lack of strength, right? So Putin's looking at us. He's like, these guys aren't going to do anything. He can do whatever he wants. She's looking at us the same way in China. We can do whatever we want. They're not going to do anything. First thing China told us in Alaska in the meetings after Biden was inaugurated was that the America no longer comes from a position of strength. So they came right out and said it. Putin thinks the same thing. And so as far as the relationship goes, we're never going to have great relationships with either China or Russia. I mean, I don't ever see that happening. I mean, I don't know what scenario would make that happen. But as far as Congress, they can't make Biden look strong. They can't make him look like a leader, like somebody that people should be fearful of, or at least even hesitant about doing anything they want. So that's my real fear about this, is we look really good going into the midterms, but Congress can't make the House, the Senate, they can't make Biden look competent or strong, or so I really don't know. And he's going to continue to do, once this happens, what's going to happen is he's going to use this as his excuse, just like Obama did the same thing, where he's going to say, well, yeah, okay, now I'm going to have to just do everything through executive order. I'm just going to have to slam things through because these Republicans aren't going to blah, blah, blah. So as far as what they can do, I don't know how they make them look strong, because that's our problem right now. We have a weak president. Look at Harris. Yes, I mean, my goodness gracious. Let's be clear. The only reason they sent her over there, people are going, well, why in the hell would they send her over there? Because she looks worse than Biden. Why do you think Barack Obama selected Joe Biden as his vice president?
Right. That's exactly right. And he this is part of this. How vulnerable we get when there's somebody weak like Joe Biden wouldn't be such an issue if Congress didn't abdicate their role for many years now, folks. Really, since Nixon and Johnson, maybe Congress essentially abdicated their role, starting with Vietnam for sure, maybe even Korea. Maybe you could even make that argument. Congress has to declare war, and our founders had a much broader conception of what is and what isn't a military action. So, these police actions in Vietnam and, Serbia, all of this stuff that we've seen over the years, that would not have flown with our founding fathers. So it wouldn't have mattered as much if the executive was really weak, because at the end of the day, his decision was simply, do I bring this declaration of war to Congress or not? That was his or her decision, because they don't do that anymore, Tom. They don't even conduct oversight the way they did. Marco Rubio saved Victoria Nuland the other day from admitting that there were biological weapons programs in Ukraine. Now, all the fact checkers came out and said, that's not true. There are just research centers. It's on the State Department website. It's on the freaking website for the State Department. And of course, they don't have the money for it. They don't have it, Don. So, of course, it came from them. And here, actually, just so people know I'm telling the truth here, hat tip Big Fish, you may even be watching. All right. Yes, he sent it to me, and then I went and looked, and I was like, you know what? I want to keep these images in case I have to bring them up, which I am right now. All right. So, where do you think, folks, they got the money for this? You think they got this from, I mean, geez, it's right. The Ukraine Ministry of Defense received an official order. Can you guys see this? Oh, you can't yet. Oops, sorry. The Ukraine Ministry of Defense received an official order from the cabinet ministers of Ukraine concerning the deployment of mobile labs to the regions of Kiev, Lviv, and eastern Ukraine to help with the COVID-19 response. So they're saying they have this, right? They familiarize themselves with the capabilities of mobile laboratories, and then on and on. Laboratory construction goes on. And then on page 2, all right, the Biological Threat Reduction Program. So it's being pushed in with this COVID response, right? And she says this. Let's just play it. And then you tell me whether or not Marco Rubio was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I played it before, but for those who did not see it, here we go.
Well, I only have a minute left. Let me ask you, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
I'm sure you're aware that the Russian propaganda groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
No, that's a classic you technique, Victoria. That's a classic Democrat technique. And this was a woman, a Hillary Clinton sycophant. Go and read the WikiLeaks cables from when Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State, and you will learn a lot more than you care to about Miss Victoria Nuland, who was an anti-Trumper, impeachment supporter, all down the line. He jumps in and blames Putin, back to Putin bashing, to stop her from continuing talking about something nobody knew about. So in the website, the reason why I showed you that is so you could see that obviously we were helping them with these COVID capabilities. They don't have the ability to respond even with mobile laboratories to test their own people. So we're helping them with that, Don. How the hell did they have the capabilities for a biological research program?
Yeah, this whole thing, man. I mean, that talking point, I've heard that from about 10 different leftists here over the last couple days. They're always trying to, say you're doing something that they're doing. It's hilarious. It's like that's an example of them doing it right there. But
that's exactly what they do.
What's the difference right now?
What Laura's been saying for years, projection. That's what she said that for decades, that they are projectionists. Laura's been saying this for 20 years. 20 years.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, ask yourself honestly right now, what is the difference between when it comes to the media and the propaganda? What difference is there between Russia and the United States?
Don, really? Come on, Don. You got John Roberts from Fox News, Mr. Virtuous, defender of the First Amendment and the freedom of the press. Yeah, right. He's like, if you're shutting down independent media, then you don't want the whole story told. John, what the hell do you get your friends at Big Tech to do to us every day, in and out, 24/7, 365? So which is worse, Don? The Putin doing it, the government doing it, or a government media cabal getting their friends with Big Tech and that cabal with them to do it for them?
Yep. Yeah, the only difference.
We don't have emails from the Biden administration to Facebook saying remove these people.
The only difference is in Russia, it's done by the government. Here, it was self-inflicted.
Which is fascism, by the way.
The media participated in it. Yeah, it was self-inflicted.
That is the definition of fascism. When you have the government directing the private sector. And it's like a facade. That's the difference between fascism and other forms of socialism like Marxism. Marxism, it's public, right? Public sector through and through. In fascism, like, Hitler tells the manufacturing plant, you're not making cars anymore, you're making tanks, right? So that's the economic definition of fascism. And when you're talking about it, when it comes in, in the context of freedom of the press, then that's fascism down to the core, Don. That is 100%. So which is worse, John? That or even another case, perhaps you take money from a certain pharmaceutical company, let's call it Schmeiser, and then you don't tell the whole story with some vaccination that they develop, right? Which is worse, Don? Which is worse? How dare we? How dare John Roberts, or anyone from Fox News, from that matter, after what we found out? How dare they lecture anybody else like they have the moral high ground here?
Yep, absolutely.
It's crazy, my friend. I'm so glad you brought that up. This is it's just totally outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's totally.
You know, here's what's really scary, and kind of back to the last question about what can Congress do, the new Congress, if it lasts this long before we're involved in this war. Here's what Congress can do: keep us out of this war. Keep us out of this war.
Yeah.
Because when you start hearing the media talk about chemical attacks and everything's about chemical attacks,
ready for the flag.
We have intelligence that says Putin's planning a chemical attack. Think Syria, everybody. Think weapons of mass destruction. Think
babies
all these things.
in incubators.
The incubators. Oh my God!
Let me roll it. Let me
hit
roll
a maternity.
And we finally call on.
Hold on. I didn't mean to cut that off.
Oh, no.
Let me roll the babies in the incubator again. It's only 30 seconds. It's worth it. Because if you don't think they're capable of this, you're out of your mind. And when I come back, I'm going to ask Don the question that we pondered earlier in the week. I'm curious what Don thinks.
And we finally call on Naira to testify.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, my name is Naira, and I just came out of Kuwait. While I was there, I saw the Iraqi soldiers come into the hospital with guns. They took the babies out of the incubators, took the incubators, and left the children to die on the cold floor. It was horrifying.
Oh, you're not even a good actress. All right? You're not even a good yet.
Was that
presidency?
Was that Jussie's daughter? Was that Jussie's daughter?
That was Jussie. Juicy. That was Juicie's daughter right there. Yeah, I'll tell you this, Don. Forget about a great power politics perspective. From a common sense perspective, if there is a chemical or biological attack in Ukraine, who has the motive? Who does it benefit? Why on earth would Russia even do that? If there is one, I'm going to be looking at the Ukrainians or the CIA. I'm sure as hell not going to be looking at the Russians. It's not in their benefit to do that at all. They would unite the global community around them. They may even lose a vote from India or China at the Security Council if they did something like that.
Yep.
That would be stupid. And Putin is not dumb. That would benefit the Ukrainians because then they would get their international cry to arms that they've been dying for. And if you don't think they're capable of that, you're freaking naive.
Yep.
By the way, the whistleblower report does not say Vladimir Putin set off those chemical weapons in Syria. It says the CIA likely did it.
Oh. You know, so the first thing they threw at us, right, to get everybody involved in this and to drum up support for whatever, these guys want war. These people want war. These are warmongers. We would have had at least one war under Hillary Clinton. Who doesn't believe that? But what they do here, so they started out with the nuclear thing, right? So, he's threatening, and he did. He made comments about nuclear war. Who was the first one that mentioned nuclear war? Joe Biden. Everybody remember that? In the press conference when he said, well, anything short of a nuclear war. And then so Joe Biden brings up nuclear war. Now there's all this intelligence. And then you actually hear Putin. He's talking about nuclear war and, devastating consequences and things like this. But that wasn't enough because it's not an emotional thing, right? You think nuclear war and you think a mushroom cloud and, you maybe think Nagasaki, Hiroshima, those kind of things. When you talk about a chemical war, that gives everybody a visual, gas mask on, gasping for breath, and it's
bio for that matter.
Bio,
right?
It's much
choking
more
up your own blood. Yeah,
it's more emotional, and that's what leftists do. They play the emotional game, tug at your heartstrings, try to get you on board with. Here's the problem the left has. I'll sum this whole thing up right here. The problem the left has right now, and why I truly believe this is a war of convenience. Is everything is uniting the American people. The last thing the left wants is the American people united because that's how they lose votes. I'm talking things like CRT, uniting Americans all across the country from both political parties, from independents, everybody is getting united. Jussie Smollett, that united the American people because everybody said that guy's a liar. That's a liar. And he made it about MAGA people. So there was a political thing. So people that say, don't make it political. He made it political. The whole thing was political.
A political charade.
And it was also like we've talked about Cory Booker and Kamala Harris's anti-lynching bill. Look at both of
Yeah,
them make the same day. They both made this pretty much the same word for word tweet. This
That's
is
right, Don.
another lynching, and this is why we have to support our anti-lynching law.
Two losers who wanted to run for president with not a single legislative accomplishment to either of their names sign on to this bill, and their friend happens to get into a lynching incident. Folks, they're capable of everything and anything. Don't put anything past them.
CRT is uniting people to the rights position. Jussie Smollett to the right position. Gas prices to the right position. Groceries, inflation is uniting people to the rights position. So they need something to unite people to their position. And war's about all they got right now left to play.
Yeah. Speaking of which, let me get rid of this. And then that was a really good. Somebody had asked, if this continues and gas prices do, hit $5-7 a gallon, well, we're going there. The question is whether it'll go higher. All right. In California, they're already there. Can Republicans somehow get a super majority? And Don, part of me, a psephologist in me is saying, the part of me is saying in some of the polling that I'm seeing right now, there are districts I just didn't think Republicans could win, that they're absolutely competitive right now. Joe Biden just fell below 40 in a majority Hispanic district in the state of California that he carried by 12 points. So, I'm stunned. But Republicans are so stupid. Now, you just said if they do it right, there isn't an overextension this year. And when I say that, I mean when Obama won the presidency, he won in a landslide unlike Joe Biden. He won in a landslide, and Democrats wound up winning seats that they had no business winning. And come the next election, they were going to lose anyway, especially in a first-term incumbent midterm. But then Republicans also took seats that people didn't expect them to take. This time, we don't have that, and Democrats did well in redistricting. But still, I'm torn here, Don, because I feel like if Republicans weren't doing what they always do, which is fight the best candidate, spend all of the best candidates' money trying to defend themselves against a crooked establishment and their donors and their corporations, then they would, look at the Wall Street Journal poll. Look at the New York Times thing last week about Hispanics. Like I said, they just couldn't bring themselves to use the word America first. These people don't want to vote Republican because they like Republicans. Some of them are voting against Democrats because they're not, because they don't want to vote for Democrats. But some of these, most are these new voters that are coming over because of Donald Trump's vision for the party. And if they don't do this, Don, then they could, get a few. I really could foresee a scenario where they blow one of the historically huge lead for, to spite the cut off the nose to spite their face, and then get maybe a handful seat majority if they're lucky. Like Kevin, you're going to lose seats out in California. Mike Garcia is in big trouble. David Valadao is in big trouble. And yet they're doing everything they possibly can to stop people like John Gibbs and to stop people like David Giglio and to stop people like Joe Kent. Are you out of your damn mind? They're cutting off their nose to spite their face when, that district was, when Mayor won that district, Don, it was like R+6. It is not R+6 anymore. They redrew it. It's D+3. You better get somebody like John Gibbs in there. Peter Mayer can't carry that seat. He can't. I don't think he will. He's going to lose. He can, and he definitely would lose in the next election, or like in a good Democratic year. He's definitely losing that seat if he doesn't lose it this time, because a big chunk of his base is not going to vote for him anyway. That's not happening. Peter Mayer is not getting all of those Republican votes. He's just not. John Gibbs will. Then he'll carry his independence. But yet they're doing everything under God's green earth, on God's green earth, under the bright blue, beautiful sky to stop them. So it's like, to answer that question, there's a lot that goes into it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, as far as is a supermajority possible? Absolutely. It's very possible, but you got to work for it. You got to do it the right way. You got to get out there and message. This is what's hurting us about having somebody like Kevin McCarthy, right? Being our spokesperson is he's not a good one.
Muddling it up.
He's muddling it up. And so we could screw this thing up. We could screw this thing up and not even get the gains that we're looking to get right now.
Definitely.
I mean, there's no doubt about that. So what they've got to do is step up their messaging game. Look at the ridiculousness of this administration trying to convince everybody now that the gas prices are because of Putin. I mean, this is a whole new stratosphere of level of propaganda and insanity. Just insanity. No, this is one of those things that nobody really believes that. So get out there and talk about it every single day. Get in front of that podium, get in front of that microphone, and keep pushing that position because nobody believes it. They'll only believe. I mean,
they're not going to believe that, Don. Look at this chart. I mean, they've been telling us for months. It was a month or two before Virginia that inflation became the #1 issue.
Yep.
They're just pretend like it's Ukraine's doing this. The food shortages, the food increases with the poll we did. That was months ago. You can't sell that.
You brought up a good point there too, and it's the fighting against their own party, right? So you've got guys like Kevin McCarthy who don't want John Gibbs or Joe Kent or David Gilio. He doesn't want those kind of people in there because they're strong leaders. They're a threat to his power. So power, money, and votes. I say that a lot about the leftists. It's a right thing too.
Of course,
it's not just a leftist thing. Kevin McCarthy will do anything he possibly can to hang on to his position of power. And if that means taking out 3 good conservatives, he's happy to do it.
Yep. And there's others. Look at what Anthony Sabatini is dealing with in Florida. Obviously, he had that primary locked up. And he's raising money. Now Anthony has to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get through a primary because they are recruiting people. It's very much what they're doing to David Gilio, which is they're recruiting people to just simply siphon votes. It's harder. It sucks even more in California because they're a jungle primary. But the name of the game in Florida is to siphon votes away so somebody can kind of sneak past him. And there are people who are viable candidates. So not viable because they're good, viable because they can. It's possible.
Look what they
then going into the general, they're horrible candidates.
Look what they just did to Ken Paxton.
Perfect example.
Same thing.
Perfect example. Now Ken has to spend, he did have to spend all this money, and now he's going to have to spend even more money and more time to win a freaking runoff when he's got a Democratic opponent that he needs to take care of. Democrats, they don't do this to each other as much. Look at like California 13. There's Phil Arbaio out there. He came very close to beating Devin Nunes in an R+20 district or some ridiculousness. That district's gone now because for his role as being a national treasure during Russia collusion, his reward for that is being written out. And by the way, nobody came to his aid. And I had very inside knowledge and firsthand, bird's eye view of that process. And everybody from the right to the left was like, we don't care what the iteration is as long as Devin's gone. Well, not that they didn't care, but because they wanted their seats shored up, but and then in the end, these very same people got screwed anyway and got written into like D+10 districts. So that these are how dumb these people are. They think if they play nice with Democrats, they're going to get like some kind of special treatment. Instead, Kevin's going to lose 2 of his closest allies.
They think
it hurts to watch, my friend.
They think they're in the club. They think they're in this club.
You say this all the time. Yes.
And they're not. You're not in the club. Liz Cheney, you are not in the club. They hate you. Mitt Romney. Yeah, absolutely.
And before we leave off of Ukraine, because I think most of the rest of the questions are about other stuff. These are Robert's suggestions, and I would word them a little bit differently, but he's getting to the crux of it here. Some suggest if Ukraine is losing the war against Russia, that America should declare war on Russia and send troops to Ukraine. Do you agree? And I would say, do you support or oppose that view? Because and I would probably even say, institute a no-fly zone, shoot down Russian MiGs, whatever it may be. I mean, you got to get to the heart of what you're asking people here to do, not get away from the stupid buzzwords and the emotional tug at your heartstring nonsense. That's bias. The crux of the question is, if Ukraine loses this war, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to go to war with Russia to defend Ukraine? And that is really what the question should be. Some suggest if Ukraine is losing the war against Russia, that the U.S. should declare war on Russia to defend Ukraine. That is what the questions you say. Would you support or oppose this, basically? And the second is, do you support, because we were looking over some of the people aren't really willing to give Ukraine lethal aid. In humanitarian, Americans are generous, but they never put a price tag on it. The price tag for humanitarian aid in Ukraine is $14 billion. Do you support the government sending $14 billion in foreign aid to Ukraine? That's the price tag. That's on the table right now. So it's like, let's get as specific as possible here. I like that idea. What do you think?
I guess at the very core of this, my situation is, as far as this is a European war. I mean, I get it, and I don't want to see the Ukrainian people suffering. I don't want to see them getting their, buildings.
But I don't want to see the
up
people of the Donbass suffer either, Don.
But I don't want our
financing
citizens
their wholesale murder for 8 years.
I don't want our citizens sent over there, our military sent over there to die for this cause. This is a European problem. It's time for the Europeans to stand up and take care of their own house. Step up, take care of this thing. This affects them. It will affect the entire world. But the last thing we need right now is to be getting into a war. And this will. We heard for 4 years Donald Trump was starting World War III. Well, folks, we're on the brink of it right now. And that's not hyperbole. That's real talk. We start shooting planes out of the sky, MiGs out of the sky. And there you go.
They'll declare war on us.
You betcha.
Absolutely, they will. Yep. We start shooting Russian fighters out of the sky. Mm-hmm. They're definitely going to declare war. He has to. Yep. And by the way, China's going to back him.
Yep. From a military standpoint, this didn't just start. So they're trying to do this stuff with the gas prices, right? So they're trying to blame it. Wow, it's just, this didn't just start. So if there was going to be any involvement on our part, we're too late anyway. You had to do this stuff. People screaming about a no-fly zone. What are you going to do? How are you going to, first of all, how are you going to get them in place? Second of all, how are you going to enforce that? It's the United States. Nobody else is going to shoot down a Russian MiG. You think France is going to do that, or Great Britain? Or of course not. It would have to be, everybody would be looking to us going, okay, guys, come on, shoot. There they are. Shoot them down. Yeah, we don't need to be doing this. But if there was any real thought that we could get involved or do anything, that period of time has passed. These things have to be pre-positioned, and nobody's talking about you've got this administration now, and they're talking about, well, we're going to send them this missile system, this protection, defense missile system. You mean the same one that Barack Obama canceled? Did everybody forget this? Do you remember when he leaned over? Okay, so we were sending to Poland, so they were going to put it on their border to defend themselves against Russia, right? So it's the S-300 missile defense system. Obama personally shut that down. When he turned to Dmitriev and said, tell Vladimir this is my last election. I'll have more flexibility after the election, which I'll
transmit that to Vladimir.
I'll transmit that to Vladimir. That's what he was talking about. That's what he was talking about, but it didn't come back. He didn't cave on that. I mean, no, he did. I mean, that's what Putin wanted, was for us not to give this.
That had to be what they were talking about, Don. Yeah. And And by the way,
nobody asked, so we'll never know. But
dereliction in the media, right? Just complete dereliction of duty, because they, of course, knew what he was talking about.
Yep.
Come on. I was talking about inflation before, how bad it was. We were going over the charts. One person said, I wonder how bad it is if housing was that bad. How bad is everything else really? Housing and shelter is major concern for voters in California. So is you would think, because if they lead in gas spikes, that's below housing and shelter in some of our polling. And food and groceries is now number one pretty much everywhere, which is really our polling is absolutely being validated by the CPI, by the way. And we were right about these shortages. People are like, you must have worded that question weirdly. The 80% saying they can't find meat. Yeah, dummy. 50% on a regular basis, 30% on an occasional basis. By the way, we were just talking about our store near us. They had this sale because they got something basically late, and the meat, it could have gone bad. So they basically put it on sale just to get rid of it. Finally, the meat comes in, and it's like, not old. I don't want to say old. It's not old, but it was not dated the way it normally would be dated, that fresh. So they had to put it on sale and get rid of it. What kind of interest rates you think we're looking at here? And I was arguing that at this point, damn it, Don, what is the Fed doing? They have to raise rates. I mean, I'm sorry. We have to feel pain, man. I hate to say it, but there's no silver bullet to get out of this mess that we've put ourselves in. We did it. And now we have to suffer the consequences to get the business cycle back on track, to get the supply lines back on track. We have no choice. But they're not moving as fast as I would like. If they don't, and then they're forced to later, what kind of rates? You and I remember interest rates. Many Americans don't. Do you know that?
Yep.
Many, I mean, they're not as old as us. It's just the truth. They don't remember 7, 8, 9% for a home, 20% for a car loan. They don't remember that crap. I do. What kind of rates do you think we're looking at if the Fed does not act so it's incremental and then is later forced to make a dramatic hike?
Yeah, my cynical side says whatever they have in mind that they want to drive it to. This is all intentional, folks. This is all intentional.
I'm with you on this. I am.
The gas prices.
So is Laura.
They told us through the entire 8 years of Barack Obama that they wanted $8 a gallon gas, that they wanted people to feel the pain and stop using the whole problem with the gas is your fault. You use too much, right?
Yeah.
So whatever they've got in their mind that they would like this to get to, that they feel politically benefits them, which I still don't understand the end game or the thought process that they would have in that, but I don't understand a lot of things about what they think, but whatever they've got in mind to drive it to, that's what it'll be.
Yeah, Stephen Colbert and other liberals like that. Go buy a hybrid. Yeah, they got money for a hybrid, idiot. Not everybody's got all of millions of dollars sitting in their bank account. What's wrong with these people? But that's Don is right. And Laura and I both are on board with that. This is intentional. Yep. It's like they said it, guys. You didn't believe them? Yep. I hate to tell the voters of Erie, Pennsylvania, you got had. You didn't believe Donald Trump when he put Joe Biden on the Teletron? You believe Glenn Kessler and Joe Biden instead? Mm-hmm. Like I said, I hate to say it, but we kind of deserve this. Mm-hmm. It is true. Whether you think he legitimately won or not is not the question. We allowed the landscape, the environment to change. We allowed them to pervert our integrity. And that's it. Yep. Do you think that if we enter a recession, which I think we're probably in one already. I mean, the registered voter economic confidence index that we posted, it says it's a recession. Inflation, these numbers, that's recessionary. And it never spikes like this without being followed by recession. But Don, if we did enter one, Bureau of Economic Analysis comes out, we see these double back-to-back quarters of decline. Do you think the media would report it? That's a good question. After 4 years of trying to create a recession under Donald Trump, you guys must remember that, right? We would have incredible growth, like 3% quarterly GDP growth, and they were talking about recessions because, the inverted, what's it called? Inverted for like 20 hours or something. It was ridiculous. But they just kept doing that kind of stuff. So would you put it past them to kind of just ignore it, Don?
Oh, no, they're not going to ignore it. So this is intentional. And whenever they do things intentionally, which is like everything, they have a plan. So they've already sat down with their media people and they've already got their story on how they're going to spin it. Look what they're doing with the gas prices. I'll say it again, right? Vladimir Putin. It's because of Vladimir Putin. And I saw Austin Goolsbee on earlier, or maybe that was yesterday, and he was talking about how, but that's because Trump or Putin was already amassing troops on the border. So the amassing of troops on the border of Ukraine sent our gas price. I mean, it's so incredibly ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if they repeat it enough, you repeat the lie, people will believe it because they need to believe it. They want to believe it. So they absolutely will not ignore it. They'll have a great reason though why it's Republicans' fault.
Yeah, got a couple comments. I'm just going to read because they're great comments. Real Johnny says, technically, we're super close. Inflation is king. All three stock markets are bear. They're going up, but, they still could be considered, So, yeah, I mean, they're trying way too hard to make us hate Russia. They're up to no good. That's Mad Mom. Mad Mom, dead on. I think I answered the why do Asians vote liberal. the newer Asian population does vote liberal because it's generational. It's where they're coming from in Asia too has changed. So, or where they did come from 20 years ago. Now they're becoming, now they're integrating. And they're more the population that came here for either an education or with an education has increased. So they've been indoctrinated. I mean, that's it. I mean, they came to American liberal institutions and were indoctrinated. They're not coming here anymore for the same reasons they did in the 80s and the 90s, which is why that was a swing vote. And like Bush v. Gore, the Asian vote was a swing vote. They're not coming here with images of Tiananmen Square in their mind anymore. They like the Communist Party. And go look at immigration. You'll see by origin that Chinese are by far the largest group. That was not always the case at all. We had more conservative Asian groups, Indians, Japanese, even Filipinos. There are a lot of in California. They're liberal, but there's actually some really good news for Republicans in the Filipino vote. Locals, if you saw the new CA13 poll I put up. By the way, even Adam Gray, because people are like, of course, they come out and they're like, that's a fake poll. This is a D+6. Okay, even Adam Gray's internal polling, which I took a whack at because it was obviously, you want to talk about intention, Don? That was not the way you conduct a poll. It was a push poll intended to push out Phil Arbaio because the headline was Adam Gray runs ahead of all the other Democrats. He's down to David in his own damn poll. In his own. Yep. Then he makes this blanket statement about head-to-head, and I'm like, come on, let's see the data. Where's your head-to-head? I got head-to-head, so I put it right out there. Knock yourself out. I knew they were doing that because somebody had received that poll, and then it was circulating around. They were taking screenshots. The way the poll was constructed, Phil Arbaio was all the way at the end, and Adam Gray was all the way at the top. And then they put the leans in the same question. So are you going to vote for Adam Gray? Are you leaning to vote for Adam Gray? You don't do that. You ask people who say they're undecided next question, whether they're leaning. You don't ask in the same damn question, but he did it on purpose to keep pushing Arbaio, and the choices weren't randomized. So every respondent was getting Gray first twice. Then the Republican candidates were sandwiched in the middle between Gray and Arbaio. It was absolutely dishonest and unethical. And by the way, you won't see anybody bring that up in their fake pollster scorecards. All right, that is a no-go. That is absolutely a no-go. He was intending to have Gray do much better in the primary vote than Arbaio, so they could then go to the party, to donors, and to Arbaio, try to push him out of that race. And in truth, he didn't release the head-to-heads because the head-to-head show what our head-to-head show, which is that David is slightly ahead of him. And then also, Arbaio is not doing that badly. So his primary vote isn't great. But if he is the Democrat, it's still really competitive. So it's not like Gray is getting these votes that Arbaio can't get. But that's what they didn't want to show that because that's the truth. And in fact, it's like a Bernie kind of thing. There are some people who told us they would vote for Arbaio. They will not vote for Adam Gray because they view him as a corporatist sellout, and he is. I mean, let's be real. The guy took money from one of OxyContin's major manufacturers. It's no good. Yeah. I mean, and Arbaio is just bludgeoning him with these, and he's got money. Arbaio hasn't pulled the trigger yet. He's just been doing it kind of like socially and in campaign stuff, but he's not like blanketing the airways yet with Adam Gray's record. So, I mean, I just can't believe nobody called out that poll, Don, for what, and I put the pictures on Twitter so everybody can see it. And yet I'm only ever joined by one pollster in calling out all of this fraud, which is what it is. I mean, they are perpetrating a fraud. And why is Jim Lee from Susquehanna the only one, Don, who ever has the courage to stand up? And that includes all the other so-called right-wing conservative pollsters. Where are you?
Yep.
Where are you?
That's that whole thing we've talked about how many times over the years. That's the polling to the narrative, right? Here's the narrative. I want the polling to match what I'm telling everybody.
That's true. Let me just say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but Laura said, don't forget Rasmussen in my ear. Yep. And that's true because Ted, Mike, they're all of them. They will call it out. They will when they see it. But you're right. That is what they're doing. And as a communications guy, Don, you know what that's for, right?
Absolutely.
What are you going to do with that?
Absolutely. If you're a conservative candidate out there right now watching this, don't do that. That's the worst thing you can do to your own campaign. You you should want to know the
Alan
truth.
West.
What's the
Alan
truth?
West.
Yeah. You should want to know
Done.
the truth so you can deal with it. You can react to it and make appropriate plans. If you're creating a narrative, of course, the poll's going to say what you wanted it to say. You created it that way. So you better want honest information. Don't believe me? Ask Hillary Clinton 2016.
Yeah. What's interesting, I'm going to go to Decision Desk here. It's interesting because how much Abbott won 60 something percent of the vote, right? If I remember correctly, it was like a 30-point win. And the Alan West campaign, which is Paradigm Strategies, I've never heard of them. It's the name of the pollster. They're from Santa Monica, apparently. I don't know why you hired a pollster from Santa Monica to do your polling in the state of Texas. But, and it's not that you can't poll outside. It's just like Santa Monica, they probably thought they were like some Silicon Valley digital polling gurus or something. But you must have either really just, you don't know how to do your job, or you tried to model an electorate that just was completely wrong. I mean, that's the only possibility I could see here, Don. That's a worse than a Gary Hart New Hampshire poll. I mean, remember Gary Hart in the 80s? That was like the biggest single polling blunder. They had West up by 9 points in their final poll. 9 points. And yet it's like a 40-point miss, my friend. A 40-point miss.
Yep.
Huge.
Yep.
Man, and when you get a pollster does that, you're the comms guy in campaigns. Don't you, I mean, try to speak to this a little bit. How, right, or you did, but how damaging it could be for a pollster to give you bogus information like that. Like, sycophant polls or whatever yes polls, right?
Yep.
How damaging could that be to you?
Very damaging. Okay, so here's the thing. When you go into an election, right? So as a comms guy working with a candidate, my job is to get them. You look at the layout. What's the lay of the land here? It's D+6, it's R+6, it's whatever it is. You figure that out. And then if let's say it's a D+6, you've got to figure out how to get those points. So every day you should wake up and say, okay, I want to get another 2 points. So what should I talk about? What is the issue? What are the issues that this district care about? What are the top priorities for these people? So you need to have real data. First of all, you need to know where you stand. Am I really, okay, so it's a D+6 district. Am I really down 6? Or maybe I'm not. So you need real, honest data to be able to do that. If you're going after points, I want to get 2 points off of this issue, Second Amendment, whatever, pick the issue. If you want to get 2 points, that's your goal. If you don't have the accurate data, you're going to say something that is going to take you further away. You're going to lose points by having inaccurate data. The data is the most important thing when it comes to messaging. How do I want to talk to people? What do they want first, right? You got to find out what they want. What are their issues? What are their concerns? How would they like to see it handled? And then does that comport with my convictions? Can I stand by? Yeah, okay, that works for me. And then you go after those points. If you have inaccurate data, you're probably hurting yourself every day you're out there saying something. You're losing more than you're never going to gain those points.
Yeah. Ian Holkauer said, speaking of California, what is the proportion of California Hispanics that would need to defect for the GOP to become competitive, like statewide, given that the factors in turning California blue were, one, aftershocks of the economic downturn. That's absolutely right. And during the days of Herbert Walker Bush. And then two, the Hispanic, and which was solidified by his son, by the way, because look at California in 2000 and 2004. It was not 30 points, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if Democrats won California by 10 points, it was a good day for them. The Hispanic vote, what effect will Biden's current policies do here? That's a question that's in flux, right? Because you saw the recall, Newsom won handily, yet Hispanic men voted to throw him out. With white men, they were actually the closest with white men. The problem in California for Republicans is that the white population and the Asian population is much more liberal than they are nationally as a whole. So it's not only about Hispanics. Now, over the long term, if Hispanics continue to be the dominating growth in a state like that, this is why I keep telling people, this is a no-brainer. It's Trump, America first, all day. If that's what Hispanic voters want, and that's what that's drawing them to the Republican Party, then mid to long term, forget about the short term gains. We're going to see them grab 3 seats probably in Texas, in South Texas, just because of that shift with the Hispanic vote. But put that aside for now. I'm talking about 4 years from now, 8 years from now, 10 years from now. Look at the census. There was no domestic white growth. None. And the country's growth was exclusively from immigration and Hispanic domestic growth. They have higher fertility rates. And if Hispanics continue to shift, and California is only because they're suffering, that's another part of this equation, I got to say, Ian, is that they're suffering from out migration. So the working class white, and by the way, it's becoming a problem for other races now as well, but throughout the 2000s and the 2010 to 2020, white working class, and now even Hispanic working class, they're abandoning the state of California, leaving only the yuppies with higher education. I mean, or not only, but much more in proportion. Do I have that graph here? I don't know. I just did a presentation on this, but you could very clearly see it. So it really depends on a number of factors, but you would need Hispanic women in California to start joining men to really tighten that up, because even though the men voted to throw out Gavin Newsom, the women did not. And white women definitely did not. So, you know, to overcome what the white woman and the liberal Asian population, you would start to need some, you know, like 55 45s, 60 40s. It would have to be a lot. Now, it could be they become a decreasing share of the population, Don. And as Hispanics get bigger, then that needed margin could be 53 47, 55 45 if women come along too. If they don't, then it's going to continue to be 60. You know, you may get to like 60 40 margins in the near term. You know, I actually think our candidate would, you know, I don't want to get into it, but I actually think that it is possible for a Republican under certain circumstances to win, say, the governorship. I do. I absolutely do. And it's not because of Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, California is different than when they elected Arnold. Arnold couldn't get elected in California today, Don. Right?
Right.
What do you think? What are your thoughts on that? That's a great question.
Well, real quick on the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, he is one of the reasons that there is the shift that there is, right? Because he was the Republican, so he had that McCain thing where there was nothing conservative about him. He was a liberal, but when everything went down and like the Maid story and all this stuff happened, and the state started getting in really obviously getting in deep trouble financially and all these things, then he was a Republican. So he's only a Republican when things are going bad. But there wasn't anything about him that was conservative. So that's what I think. That's where people really said, okay, I'm just never voting for another Republican again. I think that really happened out there. But anything can be won anywhere. The worse things get under this current administration, the more that gap is going to tighten up. But certainly all the stuff you've been showing here about the Hispanic, especially Hispanic males, that part of the vote it's fascinating to watch that shift taking place and be able to actually track it and watch it go through. So anything's possible. It was like what I was talking about earlier, right? You got to have the right data and you got to go after those points. It's like, I hate to say it, but it's a little bit like a football game, right? All right, we're down by 7 points. We got to do this, and this to get that back. And but you've got to work it. And that goes back to the supermajority question. It's possible, but you got to work it. Yeah. And actually, I could pull up real quick, and I saw, well, we really went over. But, you know, like even in this, when I say they're moving, let me show people what I'm talking about here. Okay. And I know he'll let me share this. I don't want to share everything because the situation we have here, Don, is incredible, which you're aware of. They will take this data and try to use it against him, which is outrageous, but that's what they're doing. So I know it's small, so let me bring it up. As you can see here, when we asked about reported vote, 53.3% said they voted for Joe Biden, 42.1% said they voted for Donald Trump. So we know we're actually very close, to the actual vote in this district. 57.9, so let's just call it 58% of Hispanics said they voted for Joe Biden. 37% of Hispanics said they voted for Donald Trump. Even whites said they voted slightly for Joe Biden, and they did. The Republican candidate here is actually slightly ahead, 42.4,
Look at the Hispanic vote. It's no longer that huge margin. It's 43-38. All right. Whites are actually going 52-36 for the Republican. Now, when you go down here with leaners, you'll see David Giglio is actually outperforming the generic Republican, which is a big deal. Because as one Democrat said, he's just an average dude. He's just a regular dude or something who's trying to get a few things done. You know, Adam Gray is taking 41% of the Hispanic vote in this poll, but David's only 10, it's like a 10-point margin. It's not this big blowout. And David is just crushing him among the white vote, 54-35. Interestingly, some of the younger vote, David is doing much better with. And I want to show this because everyone said Adam Gray was like this moderate Democrat. They really, the establishment really believes he was going to take like 30% of the Republican vote. I freaking kid you not, ladies and gentlemen. This is how not smart these people are. All right. In the generic ballot, less than 2%, or about, let's round 2% say they're going to vote Democrat. 6% of Democrats say they're going to vote Republican. In the head-to-head with Gray versus Giglio, Gray is only taking that 2%, right? And Giglio's taken nearly 4.4. So rounding down, it rounds to 4. But Giglio is much closer, you know what I mean? To the crossover is bigger, and they really believe on the ground. I'm not even joking. They really believe on the ground. And by the way, look, see, when I tell you Phil Arbaio's competitive, it's 55-42. The sampling error. It's a sampling error, ladies and gentlemen. He's close. So he's not the candidate Gray is trying to make him out to be. Gray is just crushing everybody else. He's crushing Diego Martinez. 50-34. Phil Arbaio beats him 50-36. Adam Gray beats Hang, who ran before, 53-32. Arbaio beats Hang 50-35. I mean, this is that's why I said what I said in the press release. And now they got a Republican. This is how not smart these people are. And I'm going to take a few minutes. I know we're over, but I'm going to take a few minutes. And I think it's important for people to know what Don and I deal with on a daily basis. A Republican donor has been, who is friends with the people who are actually supposedly Republican. They're rhinos, but they're really endorsing and funding Adam Gray, the Democrat. They've horse traded with him. One actually traded his endorsement for Gray's seat. Okay. I mean, it's really disgusting stuff. This donor was a pro-Trump donor and is now anti-Trump, hates Donald Trump, and I'm going to tell you why. And he has been the one calling around people like Elizabeth Hang and Diego Martinez, telling them to get in the race to siphon votes from David Giglio. All right. He found out when he looked at the last poll we did, he found out they're just not getting it done. So he's decided to file for himself. All right. His name's John Duarte. Now he's going to spend his own money to try to siphon votes. He is a nursery farm owner, and he thinks because he employs Hispanics at the nursery, he's going to win the Hispanic vote. I kid you. This is with this. I know you guys are smart, so you're laughing at yourself at home. He's a GOP donor. A rich GOP donor, and he thinks he's going to carry he doesn't. I think the point is, like Don said, really some of them just want to lose because he is buddies with Gray and all the people supporting Gray. So I think it's just a sabotage effort. I'm not in the guy's heart and the mind. It just doesn't make any sense. All of his other actions have been to sabotage a viable Republican candidate. So I can only assume, Don, that he's doing this in an effort to try, because he knows he has the money and he can loan himself as much as he needs to. With other candidates, they still would have to raise from other people. He can't just give $500,000 to a single candidate, but he can loan money to himself. So maybe it would be more viable if he did that. He threatened to pull down all of David's signs. I kid you not. At this meeting the other night, he was like, yeah, we're just going to rip down all your signs. He said, we're going to make up stuff about you and run ads. This guy was fined in 2017 $1.1 million. $1.1 million, which he apparently runs around and tells everybody the EPA did it. It's not true. It was for violations of the Clean Water Act. Apparently, he was digging 5-foot trenches without permits to be able to plant like more expensive stuff that take up more water. You need a permit to do that, folks, because plants, of course, the root systems take the water. It was the Army Corps of Engineers. They went there, Don, and saw what he was doing. he had to settle because it would have been 45 million, which of course would have did him in. All right. Apparently he thought that he could basically buy Trump, and that if he donated to Trump, Trump would have the Army Corps get off his back because it started under Obama. Well, that didn't happen. And he was, 1.1 mil less rich at the end of the day. And now all of a sudden he's part of the new way California hates Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I look, I'm not saying this is an attack. I'm saying this to tell people what really goes on. And where is the leadership? Well, some of the local leadership is working as hard as they can to, stop and actively working to help a Democrat. Mm-hmm. And Don, this doesn't surprise Don at all, but you never hear the real stories, like the details of these stories. This has been going on for years, this kind of stuff. There's always the playbook that they've used. Rick Santorum runs a populist campaign, is doing well in the Midwest. It's kind of like a predecessor to someone like a Donald Trump. So was Mike Huckabee, by the way. Very much a working class message. Look what they did to them. This is their playbook to stay in power, because the truth is they would rather lose than have somebody who's not in the club. Like Don said before, they would rather have somebody lose, the Republican lose, and work with Democrats than to have someone who really is like a supporter of Trump or a populist or a conservative, because they can't control that. And how important is it, Don, for really voters to know this stuff in 2022? Let's say Trump makes a comeback in 2024. He beats, whoever Democrats run. I don't think Biden's going to make it, but, how important is it for Republicans to clean their house this time? Because would it not just be a repeat of 2016, to 2020 if they don't?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And the 2016, and we've talked about this before, but just to mention this again, because it's important for people to understand, the RNC was broke. They were broke when it went into 2016. We were supposed to have Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush he was the guy. It was his turn. The next Bush in line, he was the guy. The RNC didn't have the structure because they didn't have any money or the money to make it happen. So that's how we ended up with Donald Trump as our nominee, because they couldn't stop him. Everybody needs to understand that, because you think, well, they're the RNC, it's a Republican Party, it's a GOP, they must be. No. Just exactly what you said, Rich. They would rather have that candidate lose, because then next time they can just run. Then next time they'll be in a better position to insert their candidate. Look at on the left. It was Hillary Clinton. You think that was because everybody wanted Hillary Clinton? No. It's because that's what the party wanted, and there was deals made. Look what just happened in the attorney general race in Texas. I told you what happened there. I wish I could share it here, but I know, but I can't. But if everybody knew what happened
if
there,
they knew it, Don, right?
They would freak out. And the purpose was to get George P. Bush, because he's the next Bush in line. Are there more Bushes? Can we just never hear from another Bush ever again? Guess who's on Fox News first thing this morning when I turn it on? Oh, wow, what a shock.
There he is.
George P. Bush. Hey, because he's such a relevant guy, so highly, we need to hear everything he has to say. But it's all a cabal. And that's why the work that we do, a lot of times we're fighting, we're going upstream, right? Fortunately, we still win. So, but this is what they do. It's always a follow the money thing. Always follow the money, and it's always about power.
Yeah, and there is I was going to wrap it, but this is another one real quick, and I don't want to keep Don way too over here. But could Illinois be attainable for Republicans within the next few cycles? There has to be a reason why they sabotaged Trump in Chicago. For people who don't know what he's talking about, Donald Trump wanted an inner city campaign, and he wanted to go to speak to the African American communities. He wanted to go and speak to minorities that are in the inner city machine. Anyone. He thought Donald Trump and the 2016 Trump. I wish the 2020 Trump will listen to the 2016 Trump. But the 2016 Trump believed that he wanted to talk to everybody, and that really everyone is persuadable. They're common sense. Americans have common sense. He goes into the inner city, first stop, Chicago, and Democrats stage a riot. 4 police officers get hurt. they were trying to, even Fox News lied about this, by the way. They were saying it was organic and, it's a blowback from these minority communities for Trump being there because, of course, he's a racist, right? Nonsense. Those were white liberals who many were Bernie people and Clinton people. And they started a riot so that Donald Trump had to cancel it because of security issues. They did not want Donald Trump talking to the African-American community in Chicago. End of story. And that is, I do think there's something to that, because look at Bruce Rauner, who Don and I are real out of the box guys on when it comes to how to win elections. And Bruce Rauner listened to some better ideas and did the right thing. And he went right into Chicago and he said, I'm going to these super churches. Reverend Meeks, let me speak. Let me hear me out. And he told them, give me 4 years. And if I don't do anything to help you, then get rid of me. And ultimately they did, but it was because of some stupid scandalous stuff. But but his policies actually were not that bad. The tax issue was stupid. How he tackled that. I mean, you don't ask these people for their vote and then get stuck in a traditional Republican tax cut for the rich trap. I mean, that was just so stupid of him. But what he did to win, to beat Quinn was smart. And Pat Quinn, right? That was his name. And he went in there and he did it. And, they after that with Bruce Rauner, they saw what could happen if Donald Trump did it. And they flipped that. So sadly, you're going to have to keep trying. I wish Donald Trump didn't get spooked the way. I don't think he got spooked. I think he was advised that it could be a security and they'll blame you for it if something happens. I would have came back the next week. I really would have. Everyone deserves to hear both messages. I can't stand how they have isolated a certain percentage of the population. We look at the Electoral College. I remember, Don, years and years ago when I first started to fall in love with politics, there wasn't this idea of 8 battleground states. Of course, there were states that were more competitive than others, but everybody campaigned on everywhere, and it was a whole Reagan 50 state kind of campaign, and Ronald Reagan wanted to see everywhere, and he wanted to shake hands with every state, and that what they've done to us is balkanization, and no nation survives that. No nation has ever survived that. I hate it. And when somebody like Donald Trump wants to go in there, why is it okay for Connor Lamb to go to rural America, but Donald Trump or Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden, why is it all right for them to go to rural America, which is dominated by Republicans, often by bigger margins than some inner cities? Why is it okay for them to go there, but it's not okay for a Republican to go into urban America? And that's what it would take, Ian. That's what it would take, because they have built these relationships and they're Tammany-like machines. And in order to really break them, you have to build your own relationships. And unfortunately, they will do things like what we saw them do in 2016. And done, right? I mean, that's not the only example. I mean, God, you're basically feel like you're in enemy territory when you take your candidate to go speak to inner city minorities.
And that should speak to the minorities, because what that says, what that says is you're our property. We're going to protect you from this person talking to you. You belong to us. So you will not be hearing from these people. That should really bother. And I'm surprised it doesn't bother more of the minority communities.
And it's never them. It's always these, I'm telling you, folks, it's like these white college kids, violent as hell, all right? Or college dropouts that are just still liberal, and they're violent as hell. Those were white people, for the most part, that did that. And they injured 4 police officers. You didn't see anything. You didn't see any condemnation there from so-called Republicans, let alone forget about the media. You're not going to get it from them. Fox News, they push the narrative hook, line, and sinker. These are people who were offended by Donald Trump's message. No, they weren't. Those were Bernie people. And later, Project Veritas showed us people directly connected to Hillary Clinton. Are you kidding me? Anyway, what do you think about, last thing, Don, last thing, we'll go. What do you think somebody said about the potential Republicans take office, especially? We had, Joe Biden murdered an entire family in Afghanistan. These people want to run around and call Vladimir Putin a war criminal and should be killed. What do you think could happen? Anything serious could happen with Joe Biden, with some of these incidents that he has done, and then, by the way, lied about them. Would he be removed for, what do you think he'd be removed first for? Something like that, or mental incompetency? And do you think Republicans will go that route anyway?
First of all, I don't think it'll have anything to do with the Republicans. If he gets removed, it'll be removed because they want him gone. The leftists I'm talking about, who are clearing the way for the next 2024 presidential election.
That's right.
This was a huge win for them, sending Kamala Harris to Poland, for all those that don't want her to be the next candidate. But yeah, if he gets removed, it's only because the left wants it done. I mean, I think the whole thing with go back to like Bill Clinton, right, and the Monica Lewinsky thing. The only reason that evidence came through is because the left allowed it. The left allowed that evidence, DNA evidence, to come out. Nothing happens to anybody on the left unless somebody in there wants it done to somebody else. So,
Cuomo, perfect example.
Yeah. And I think it just turns into a really bad. There's so many things that we could focus on. Aside from that, as far as a party in control of the House and in the control of the Senate, what's going to happen is if any of that stuff goes down, it's going to narrow down and it'll all become about Hunter. And now look, the Republicans are attacking his son, and Hunter will be a sainthood. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just a bad PR road for them. We have no control in the media, right? Except for what you and I do, and Robert Barnes and Viva and others out there doing what we do. But as far as the mainstream media, they control every single narrative. So no matter what they would try to go after him for, it would go down badly. I hate to say that. So focus on the issues. Focus on helping
picking
the
on
American
a senile old man.
Yep. See, that's what they do. They pick on this guy. Somehow it'll be racist too. I mean, everything
go
is
after
racist.
an old white guy,
right? White people going after white people will be white supremacy, and you know the drill.
But you just said it though, and I interrupted you. Focus on helping the American people. Look at Glenn Youngkin. Joe Biden has completely collapsed in the state of Virginia, and Glenn Youngkin is sitting pretty at approved +8. So why, folks? He won the election by 1.5 points. Why is he sitting pretty at that approval? Because he did what he told them they were going to do. A man, you're friends with him, you've interviewed him many, many times. It was once a blue state, thought to be a blue state. And yet he came in and he won, survived recall after recall, re-election after re-election. His name is Scott Walker. And when we polled the Obama Walker voter, which became the Obama Walker Trump voter, they said, you know what? I may not agree with Scott Walker on everything, but at least I know that he's going to do what he says he'll do. And I respect that. And that is why Scott Walker won the state of Wisconsin. So I'm totally with you on that, Don, 100%. Focus on helping the American people, because I'm consistent, man. Democrats weaponized and abused to the point of almost that. Well, no, they threatened the very constitution of our republic by using impeachment as a weapon the way they did. And I don't want a tit for tat, man. I don't. Now, am I being naive? Is it naive that the next time there's a Republican president, Democrats won't do it? Yeah, it would be naive to think that. I think they've opened the door and they're just going to do it all the time. But I think we need to think really carefully about whether or not we want to waste the energy on doing the same. If Republicans were competent and could do things for the American people at the same time as going after Joe Biden for something, then I would say that. But do we not remember the Obama administration? They had impeachable offenses on that guy, and they botched it every step of the way. Trey Gowdy. Smoking gun email. He tripped, and a prosecutor at that, and he tripped all over himself on it.
Let me give one example. I know we're getting ready to wrap here, but let me give you one example. Here's what's going on right now. $14 billion aid package, humanitarian aid to the Ukrainian people. Nothing against the Ukrainian people at all. I feel bad for what's going on to these guys, and I get it. The people proposing this, everybody take a walk from the White House and walk to the Capitol building. You know where we need humanitarian aid? From the walk to the White House to the Capitol building. Look how many homeless people are living in cardboard boxes, sleeping on park benches all through the winter too. This isn't just a summertime when the weather's good kind of thing. You want to give humanitarian aid? How about you give it to the American people? The ones you're in your limo every day, making the drive to the Capitol or to the White House or wherever you're going, and you just drive by these people on your way to figure out how we can get $14 billion to the Ukrainian people. We got to get bored. It's a European thing. Let them solve their own problem. Fix the damn problems in here. So Kevin McCarthy, get in front of a microphone and say, here's what we're going to do. We propose the $14 billion goes to help our poor, to help our homeless people, instead of, don't give them free needles and all that stuff. You're not helping anybody. You're furthering the problem. So you want to win a supermajority, get on messages like that.
Bravo. Well said. Well said. They drive right past those people, man.
Sure they do. They couldn't care less.
Even, with that in mind, what do you got? Yeah, because I know we're late. What do you got coming up on Saturday?
So tomorrow, noon Eastern time, we're going to start talking about just some different things that are going on. We've been talking about how people are getting shut down here and there, and there's a lot of competition. I agree with you on the Trump thing. I think Trump should have put his brand on Getter and left it, called it a day. But there is a need for this kind of stuff, right? So whether it's wireless communications, whether it's fundraising apparatus, whether it's all these different tools, Give, Send, Go, places like that are coming up on board. We had an opportunity to talk to a lot of these people at CPAC, and we're going to do a segment each week. And we're going to talk about that. Here's alternative forms. Here's other places where you can still do business and they can't shut you down. They can't impact your business like they're doing right now on a daily basis. But we've also, of course, we will have you on the program, latest polling, talk a little bit more about further what you talked about here today. I think your project that you've got right now, I'm really excited to see some of the results on that. So we'll get a little deeper into that. Peter Hussey will be back. Also, we've got Senator Doug Mastriano, who's a state senator in Pennsylvania. He's running for governor. Met this guy. I knew a little bit about him, kind of a cursory, knowledge of him. After meeting this guy, this is one of those guys that you and I talk about that has conviction, that gets the messaging, that cares about the American people, cares about families and education. And I was really impressed with the interview with him. So I want to play that for everybody here tomorrow, starting at noon Eastern time. DonSmithShow.locals.com. We will never go back to YouTube. I don't care if they could beg me to come back to YouTube, which I'm sure they won't. But even if they did, I will not go back there. We will only be on Rumble, and we'll start figuring out other ways how I can stream on Getter and wherever else we can do it. So.
Yeah, with that said, thanks always, man. You spent a lot of time overboard, and I appreciate that. I didn't even notice we were over until almost 20 after 2. I was like, oh my God. Sorry about that, but thanks for hanging. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. You got something else to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, and I know Laura's hungry, so.
Yeah, I'm starving myself. I am. And it's like that time. You get, there she is. Hey, what's up, babe?
More, feed me.
I got you, babe.
Sorry, you. Laura.
All
right, yeah.
And for the poor.
Give Brenda our best, of course. Tell Brenda hello. And we'll tell the
love
kids
you, Brenda.
Give our love to. She's upstairs. Yeah, and give our love to the kids.
Will do, as always. Talk to you soon.
I heard Roro making an appearance in the background.
You did.
So
he did. He did.
He got mad for a second.
All right.
All right. That's what I call him. My monster.
Brenda just yelled down, "Love you too, Laura."
See.
No love for me.
You too.
No love for you. It's all about me.
And we'll talk later, but we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Sounds good. Take care, everybody.
All the best, Don.
All the best.
As always, ladies and gentlemen, Don Smith. Don't miss the show tomorrow, noon Eastern Standard Time. You'll see him tweet it out. Thanks, Brenda.
I love you, Brenda.
And you'll see him tweet it out. I'll retweet it, of course, but check out his local page as well. Sign up to Rumble for Don as well, because thanks, Brenda. I can hear you sign up to Don's show. There it is. Join Don on Locals. And of course, if you're on Rumble and you're checking out his channel, just like mine, you'll see the Locals button. All right. He's got a lot of cool stuff coming up. Maybe we'll have some early indication or, something I can at least opine on, because I do kind of peak after like 10% to see. And my mind starts doing, okay, this is women, this is men, this is race, this is education, this is whatever, regional. And I'm superstitious. I don't like to constantly watch it, but I do always peak after like 10, 20%. It's hard to make an inference into it, but you do it long enough and eventually. Believe me, you start to get some, you start to notice the signs. All right. So with that in mind, here's my little announcement. All right. Before we go, we used to do the Zoom meetings, the Zoom meetups on Friday on our locals community. It got huge, blew up, and they were like 4 hours long sometimes. Would sit there and we would just shoot it on a Friday. People, sitting there with their scotch, Coke or something. It was cool. But with kids, it is difficult, And I was thinking, what else can we do? And the book club idea was a very, very popular idea. And what we were thinking is getting 1-2 others to help us host it. So like, I would be there for an hour, 2 hours, and we would go through the read together and basically talk about what it means, what's the significance of each, what the content. And then if you guys wanted to stay longer for a discussion on locals, then I could just basically pass off to a guest host. And Owen has been kind enough to do that for us. We're still talking about the book. He, because of a suggestion, grabbed Jack Snyder, Myths of Empire. And I was thinking, since it is foreign policy, at first my initial thought was, let's start with a book like this. Excuse me. Let's start with a book like this, The American Revolution, Writings from the War on Independence. But then we had Ukraine, and we're really into the security studies, international relations. And that's a great place to start, Jack Snyder, Myths of Empire. You guys would not have to buy the books. You could if you'd want to, but you wouldn't have to. Whoever the hosts are, Laura and I, if you don't have the book, we'll send it to you so you can have that content when we read it. Yeah, so we're going to start off. We'll start with Owen. If you guys, anyone else is interested, definitely let us know. We'll start with one and go from there. But maybe there are times where somebody needs a break. Owen works for a living, right? And it's a good place to start because it's a common sense international relations book. And it goes back and looks at, it's called Myths of Empire for a reason. All of the stuff that you hear day in and day out that I'm slamming day in and day out. That's why I have to repeat myself over and over, because they repeat their BS over and over. So it has to be shot down over and over. And Jack Snyder does a fantastic job just destroying neoliberalism and destroying neoconservatism. They have been operating on lies. They have been operating under the assumptions that are completely incorrect. They're lies. So it's not something that's so heavy, that we basically scared off. Something like Man, the State, War. If you're a real INR nerd, you can tackle Kenneth Waltz, and it's 3 images, but he is very intense and it's very wonky. It's brilliant. But I didn't want to start with something like that. We'll get a grip on everything. We'll probably, after Jack Snyder, Myths of Empire, go to Tragedy of Great Power Politics. But locals, I need you to do me a favor. We're going to give you a few times. I'm thinking Fridays worked for everybody on Zoom, Friday nights. But maybe we'll do something Tuesday or Thursday, which is when we don't have a show. And we'll do something later so everyone who's at work can join and then, chime in. So let me know whether you can start giving me comments now, Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday night, what you guys would think you'd like. Fridays are a little bit tough for some people. I'm going to tell you, Friday nights, people want to go out, they want to kick loose, whatever it is. So Tuesday and Thursday in between the show is probably best. But again, we'll have to work that out with Owen. Let me hear your thoughts. And then Owen, Lauren, and I will get together, kind of try to find the majority that works for us. And we'll start this. I really enjoyed those Zoom meetups, and I think a book club would be fantastic to add to locals. I really do, because our community is a thinking community. And yes, it's a revolution in data journalism, but it also can be much more, right? Why limit us, right? Why limit us? So definitely, like I said, right now, if you're watching the show, now is a good time to join the locals community. We have a poll going out. We're working on the book club stuff. It's going to be cool. And of course, we'll get exclusive content that other people won't get from the polling. Embargoed polls, exclusive stuff. All right, Laura, you got something you want to say? It looks like she did, didn't it? All right, with that in mind, I'm going to kick rocks. I guess she doesn't have something else to say. I thought she did. All right. Again, follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Getter. It's all in the descriptions. Follow Laura, which you can, at Laura Barris. It's in my profile on Getter. You can check her out over there too. She's much funnier than I am. But of course, sign up to Rumble. Seriously consider it when you're there. Join the locals community right there. peoplespundit.locals.com. Thanks so much for everybody who watched today. Share far and wide. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Hit the notification bells. Let you know when we're going to go live. Have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend. And we'll see you tomorrow on Don Smith Show, noon Eastern Standard Time. All the best, folks. I'm out and kicking rocks.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now